podcasts you love.
From people you trust.
This is Twit.
Hi, this is Leo Laporte, and this is my Tech Guy podcast. This show originally aired on the Premier Networks on Sunday, September 4th, 2022. This is episode 1924. Enjoy. The Tech Guy podcast is brought to you by Melissa. Make sure your customer contact data is up to date. Try Melissa's APIs in the developer portal. It's easy to log on, sign up, and start playing in the API sandbox 24/7. Get started today with 1,000 records cleaned for free at melissa.com/twit. Oh, I'm sorry. I was just resetting my Altair. Hold on a second. Hello, everybody. Leo Laporte here, the Tech Guy. Time to talk computers, the internet, home theater, digital photography, smartphones, smartwatches, all that jazz. 8888 Ask Leo is my phone number. I need the Tech Guy here. I have an Altair 8800 computer, one of the very first personal computers. This is the one made by MITS in Albuquerque, New Mexico, that was featured on the front cover of Popular Mechanics magazine, that caused Harvard student Steve Ballmer to come running into Harvard freshman Bill Gates' dorm room and slap him upside the head saying, Bill, we've got to go to New Mexico and write a BASIC for this computer. And Microsoft was born in 77, 76, something like that. Can you imagine Steve Ballmer running into your dorm room, slapping you with a Popular Science? Was it Popular Mechanics? I think it was Popular Mechanics. Anyway, turned out well for Bill and Steve and company. They're all rich. Meanwhile, I'm stuck with a MITS Altair, and I have to switch the stop button up, the reset. It's got all switches on the front. No keyboard, no monitor. Reset up. SW1 should be up, and all the others should be down. I think that's where the mistake is, but somebody's been fiddling with my switches. Oh, there it goes. There it goes. The programming has succeeded. The lights. So if you've never seen video of the show, I know it's a radio show, but like Don Imus, Howard Stern, we also shoot video of this show, which we stream over our podcast network at twit.tv. You can actually see it right now if you go to live.twit.tv. And so as a result, I've turned my studio, which is, just a normal radio studio, into something that looks like, the opening shots of Masterpiece Theater. There's all sorts of bric-a-brac on the shelves, old computers and stuff behind me at PDP-8. And to the left, an Altair 8800, some vintage stuff. And then right next to that is a Amazon Echo, show. So there's all sorts of stuff in here. If you've never seen it, I guess it's interesting. This is the problem. A radio show is just some guy talking. So, in an effort to dress it up and make it more interesting, we put strange things on the shelves. It doesn't make it more interesting. It just makes it strange. iPhone event coming up on Wednesday. We know there will be an iPhone 14. Well, we don't know. Rumor has it, but the rumor is pretty good, especially as we get closer, because it's hard to keep this stuff quiet. Apple is very good at keeping stuff quiet inside the ring, the Apple campus in Cupertino. But the problem is somebody's got to make this stuff in China and Brazil and India, and there's factories all over, and and then you got suppliers making cases and stuff. So all this stuff is going to kind of, as we get closer to the event, leak out. So this is the latest, probably as good as the info will ever get, the intel will ever get until September 7, when all will be revealed. And by the way, an in-person event inside the Apple campus there, at the Steve Jobs Theater. So Micah Sargent, my colleague, will be there. He'll get to have his little mitts, get his grubby little mitts on the new iPhones. They won't be grubby. Mike is actually a clean freak. They'll be very, very clean. He will be looking, we think, at an iPhone 14, an iPhone 14 Pro, and an iPhone 14 Max, and an iPhone 14 Pro Max. The Maxes will both be 6.7 inches. The Pro will be better somehow. In fact, you probably want the Pro because the rumor is that Apple will use this year's iPhone 13 chip in the regular iPhone 14. No chip upgrade, no speed upgrade. But they will put the new A15, I don't know, 16? It's too many numbers. The A16 chip will be in the iPhone 14 Pro. Okay. Enough of that. There'll also be a new Apple Watch. Ooh, the rumors are interesting on this one. The rumor is that Apple will announce a Apple Watch Series 8 Pro. And this is the thing that's interesting. You know, it'll be bigger. It'll have a fancy titanium alloy body, that kind of thing. But the thing that's really interesting is the pricing. And of course, we don't know. And Apple, you know, will announce this, and we'll all understand, and we'll know whether this rumor was bogus, how much bogosity there was. But the rumor is this will be a $800 or $900 dollar watch. An $800 or $900 watch. $900. That's kind of tone deaf in this era of inflation and recession, is it not? Apple's done this before with the Apple Watch Edition. Do you remember that one? That's when they first announced the Apple Watch. How many hundreds of years ago was that? The Edition was solid gold. Solid gold. And I think if the top of the line was something, was it $18,000? Some huge, huge amount of money if you got the gold. So they've done it before. That goes back. I think the Edition goes back to the days of their designer Johnny Ive. You remember him? Maybe you don't. I don't know. Apple watchers very aware of Johnny. He was the bold British fellow who would come on and he'd be in a completely white space on the videos, and he'd say, "This is the thinnest iPhone we've ever made." He was a designer, and I say that with a capital D, designer, which means that he kind of thought the design was more important than any other consideration, including what you peons might pay for a watch. Of course, somebody will buy a gold watch for $18,000, even if it's obsolete in a year, surely. He was wrong, by the way. That was a big flop. Apple stopped making those. So now Johnny's gone. Johnny has left the building. And thank goodness, because Apple's now started putting more ports on their laptops and getting a little more sensible. They got rid of that extra thin keyboard that nobody could use and would break. And because Johnny didn't care. It looked beautiful. That was all that mattered. Sir Johnny, I should say, he has been knighted. I remember going flying somewhere the day after an Apple event a few years ago, and the lounge was all abuzz. Sir Johnny is going to be in the lounge. They roped off an area. They put in gold balloons. I don't know what they did. They did all sorts of fancy stuff. And I think there was a sign that said, "Welcome, Sir Johnny Ive." I never did catch sight of him. But I'm glad he's gone. I think a computer company should focus more on, technology, don't you think? I don't know, just a thought. Speaking of technology, some new technologies coming to a computer near you. USB version 4 2.0. Okay, I'm not kidding. So it's USB 4, but it's version 2.0 of USB 4. Whatever. The good news is it'll be twice as fast as USB 4 version 1. It's twice as fast. It goes to 2. Amazing. 80 gigabits per second, which no one could ever use because that's roughly 8 gigabytes of data per second. No hard drive can deliver that up. The value of this will be you could have a USB 4 version 2.0 dock, and you could have 20 things attached to it, and they'd all be fast. I guess that's the point. They say it will use the existing cables built into USB 4 Type-C version 1.0, but there will be newly defined 80 gigabit per second USB Type-C version 2.0 active cables. Active is an important word, which will undoubtedly cost as much as the Apple Watch, the gold Apple Watch. Get yourself ready. The future is coming. When? I don't know. They announce these things, so it's official. And then developers and hardware manufacturers go, okay, now what? How much is that going to cost? And they start designing probably next year, right? We hope. Here's some interesting news. When I saw this headline, I think I misunderstood it. The first Rivian-powered vasectomy. Now, the Rivian, and Abuelsamid will probably have something to say about this, our car guy coming up. The Rivian is an electric truck, okay? But it has a unique capability, apparently, much like the Ford F-150 Lightning. The batteries are so big in these, you can plug them into your house and keep it going. Christopher Yang, who is a physician, says the power in the clinic went out. The patient didn't want to reschedule, so we plugged the truck in and kept on going. When I read the headline, I had a completely different image of what that might be. But it's not as bad. The truck itself did not perform the vasectomy. There was actually a physician there. 8888 Ask Leo. That's the phone number, 888-827-5536. We'll talk. I'm sure Sam will have something to say about that. We will also take your calls. We'll talk high tech. Anything on your mind, give me a ring. Leo Laporte, the tech guy. Again, do not call that number. It's 8888 Ask Leo is our number. When you phone that number, there will be a person at the other end, not a robot, not an artificial intelligence, a real intelligence, the wonderful Kim Schaffer, the unbreakable phone angel. Hi, Kim.
Perhaps no intelligence. Hi.
I've been, more and more we're starting to see AI kind of evolve into something. Have you been paying attention to the AI artwork that's being generated now by DALL-E and Stable Diffusion and these other? Yes.
Adam in our chat room made me a drawing.
Of you?
No, not of me. Because I said just make one of me, and he said they're, I don't know, putting the kibosh on humans or something like that. I don't know.
Well, it depends. See, there's many different ones. And you're right, DALL-E 2, which is the one from OpenAI, and the first one we knew, doesn't do humans very well and will not do famous people. Stable Diffusion, however, which is one that's becoming popular, was released a couple of weeks ago, open source, which means you can run it on your own computer. So there are no such restrictions. And you're seeing a lot of celebrity, weird celebrity. It's not quite deep fakes yet? Getting there. Getting there.
No, so my request was a flamingo dancing on the moon wearing a kilt.
I love it. And what did you get?
It was a flamingo dancing on the moon wearing a belt.
A belt. Okay.
The kilt was not so much a kilt. But,
okay.
It was cute, nonetheless.
Nice. Nice.
Yeah.
Who should a belt, kilt? What's the difference?
Well, there's actually that is the saddest kilt I've ever seen.
There's quite a difference. Come to think of it, if you're a Scotsman and you forgot to wear your kilt,
you want a little bit more than
a little more than a belt. Who should I start this show with today?
Let's go to Claudia in LA, who timely has an iPhone 6S that's not
Holy cow.
And I said, well, new ones are coming out, so everything that's already out there will get cheaper in the next few days.
That's from the 20s, I think. Yeah.
Yeah.
Hi, Claudia. Thank you, Kim. Leo Laporte, the tech guy.
Hi. I have a 6S, and apparently since I got it, I haven't been charging it the right way, so because every night I would charge it. And my son said that I was charging it wrong.
No. Your son's wrong. You're charging it exactly right. There's nothing wrong with keeping it plugged in, charging it overnight. I've been doing that forever. Apple is fine with that. But all lithium-ion batteries, which is what's in your 6S, stop charging after about 500 cycles. So you've had this for how many? 5 years?
Well, I'm easy on my phone. So they have an SE that has the same face. It's got the home button, and it's the newer. Yep. And I wanted to know, I heard about waiting until the new ones come out, and then that phone, right now it's about $450. And I was wondering, will the new ones that come out adjust that phone so I can get that, and will it be lower in price? And is that a good way to go for the new one?
So, a couple of things you should know. You do want to replace the 6S. You can bring it to Apple, and they can replace the battery for under $100. They will do that with their phones. The reason you want to replace the 6S is it's not going to be getting the new operating system. So iOS 16 will not be installed on anything older than 2016 or earlier, actually. So that's one reason to get a new phone. But you could, if you're careful of penny pincher, that's the word. You could just go to Apple and get a new battery put in it, and it would give you another 5 years of charging. Your son's wrong. There's no reason not to charge it overnight every night. But that's, I don't blame him. That's a very common belief. And I'll even put in the show notes at techguylabs.com Apple's recommendations. All modern phones are smart enough to take care of their batteries, so you don't need to nurse them. The bad news is that SE, the current SE, was just announced a year ago. That's in some ways good news because it does have the up-to-date Apple processor. It's kind of just like your old phone, except it's modern, and will continue to get the SE2 will continue to get updates for some time to come. So that's a good choice, but bad news, it probably won't go down in price when the new phones are announced Wednesday because they're not replacing it. So it will still be the low-end iPhone, and I doubt very much that they'll change the pricing on that. Sorry.
Okay.
They will change the price probably on other older iPhones. In fact, the SE may not, which is, as you said, $429, may end up not being the low price leader if they decide to cut the iPhone 12 or the iPhone 11, older iPhones. But so it's always a good idea if you're going to buy an Apple product, if you can wait till Wednesday to wait.
I can wait.
But I don't think it'll go down in price. You know what might go down in price that's comparable is an iPhone 12 mini, which is small, kind of the same shape and size as the iPhone SE. It doesn't have the home button, though. I have to say the SE is the last one still with a home button. If you really like that button, the fingerprint reader on the bottom.
I don't want to have to change what I'm used to.
Yeah, exactly. So go for the SE. Go for the SE. That's going to keep you going for a long time. They put the A15 in it. That's the same chip that's in the current iPhone. So it will go as long as iPhone 13, which is at least another 5 years. Plus, you won't have the battery problems and so forth. I think that's a good choice for most people who want to stay with iPhone. Leo Laporte, the tech guy. Bye. Bye. Bye-bye. Bye-bye. Hello, Sam.
Hello, Leo.
Did I steal your thunder?
No. You can take the thunder. It was the lightning that was the problem.
Ah. Jerry got his lightning. It's cool to look inside. It looks the interior is so much like my Mustang.
Yeah, it's the same screen that's in there.
Yeah.
I was using a lightning for a little while earlier this week to power some stuff in my house.
Nice.
Because we had a major storm that came through and knocked out power for a day.
I didn't know the Rivian had the same capabilities.
It's not quite the same. So on the Rivian, they just have 4 120-volt outlets. I think the maximum output is across the 4 is about 2 kilowatts.
So he was able to plug in his lights and his cautery device. Right. It wasn't like the whole home power inverter that the Lightning has.
Right. So the Lightning, there's two different things that they have. They have the whole home power, which will put out up to 9.6 kilowatts, and that can switch over automatically when your power goes out. And then what I was using was just the Pro Power on Board feature, where they have, if you have the premium version, you get 11 outlets in the truck, 10 120 volt outlets and a 240 volt outlet. And it'll put out the same 9.6 kilowatts, but you have to plug everything in directly to the truck. The whole home power backup goes through the charge port when your truck is plugged in. If it detects your power going out, it will automatically flip the transfer switch, disconnect your house from the grid, and draw power through the charge port through into your house to power your whole house. So I wasn't powering the whole house. I was only powering individual devices. So I had a couple of refrigerators, some lights, and assorted other things being powered using it as a generator.
That's kind of cool.
Yeah. Unfortunately, not long after the truck arrived, the power finally came back on. My utility wasn't providing an estimate of when power would be restored. And this was on Tuesday, and they were saying, we expect about 80% of customers to have power restored by Thursday. And they weren't giving a specific estimate, which they usually have in the past. And so I thought, this is not looking good. One of my friends from Ford called up and said, hey, would you like us to send over a Lightning? And I have a gas generator.
That was very thoughtful of them.
Well, first I said no, but then I thought, well, a bunch of my neighbors don't have generators.
Test it.
And if the power's going to be out for a while. So, go ahead and send it over, and I'll loan my generator to somebody else.
Oh, that's nice.
But then the truck got there. I got everything switched over and plugged in, and then 20 minutes later, the power came back on. So, nice. but if you have an
concept.
EV, if you have a lot of EVs, you can do this. So,
yeah, I could do it with my Mustang. I just need an inverter, I think, right?
Yeah, and the thing is, a lot of newer EVs, have that inverter capability already built in, which is what's in the Lightning. Hyundai and Kia have it on their vehicles. Their vehicle to load capability. Rivian's got it.
That's nice. Of course, I have the Powerwall, which is kind of the same thing. So.
Kilotech asks, where is the technology to make the car self-charging without any need for a charging station? That's what's known as a hybrid, where you have an engine that propels you.
In some areas, they've tested out road beds that can charge vehicles, right?
Yeah, that's going to have limited utility. It's going to be more for like buses and things like that.
Hold on a sec. This would be a good time to tell everybody about our fine sponsor for the Tech Guys show this week, Melissa. Melissa is, for years we said they're the address experts, right? Because they fix your address lists, your customer lists, your supplier lists, your contact lists. They clean them up. But really, I think it's more than that. It's about data quality, right? Bad data quality can cost you a lot of money, an average of $15 million a year. And, of course, the longer your address lists are unmanaged, the worse it gets. To ensure the success of your business, your customer information has got to be accurate. Melissa, that's exactly what they do. They're the leading provider of global data quality and address management solutions. There is another side to having accurate data. It's embarrassing if you don't. You've got a customer on the line, maybe already a little bit irate over some customer service issue, and then you call them by the wrong name or say, oh, you live in Florida, right, when they live in Idaho. That's embarrassing and can make things a lot worse. Melissa recently partnered with ID Pal to launch Melissa ID, and this is seamless contact verification in real time. And there's a lot of reasons you'd want to do this. There's a lot of reasons you want to do this. Also, to avoid fraud, to make sure you've got the right information. There may be compliance regulations you need to comply with. Melissa ID is a unique, fully customizable, out-of-the-box SaaS solution. Uses a multi-layered approach including biometrics, facial matching, liveness testing, address verification, and document checks. But what it gives you, and you choose how you want to do this, but it gives you automated identity verification. Melissa's been doing this for 35 plus years. They've done address standardization, correction, verification. This new app offers coverage of 6,000 identification documents, over 200 countries and jurisdictions. So this is global. You're getting the best. Melissa ID is great for businesses charged with reducing costs associated with customer acquisition, operations, fulfillment, fraud. You'll reduce risk, ensure compliance. You'll keep customers happy. Protect your data from decay with 2.1 billion clean, validated records in the Melissa database. You can ensure compliance. You may be required to comply with AML, anti-money laundering regulations, politically exposed persons, Bank Secrecy Act. You can score and target customers with detailed demographic and firmographic data appends. Complete customer records, add missing items like names or addresses or phone numbers and email addresses. And of course, your data is absolutely secure with Melissa. They undergo complete independent security audits on a regular basis. They're SOC 2 compliant, HIPAA compliant, GDPR compliant. Duplicate information is just as bad as incorrect information. Hurts your bottom line. You're mailing more than one copy of a catalog, for instance. Melissa's data matching eliminates clutter and duplicates. So, get Melissa the way you want, on-prem, in the cloud, SaaS. There's even a lookups app on iOS and Android. They have geocoding enrichments, all sorts of features you and your business can use. Make sure your customer contact data is up to date. Melissa's APIs are amazing, which means you're also going to be able to add this to your existing software, your customer service software, or your shopping cart stuff. Check out the API in the developer portal. It's easy to log on, sign up. You can play in the API sandbox 24/7. And to get started, 1,000 records cleaned for free. Just to try them out, melissa.com/twit, MELISSA, melissa.com/twit. Thank you, Melissa, for supporting the Tech Guy Show. And now on we go. It's time to drive on in and see Sam Abuelsamid, our shade tree mechanic, principal researcher at Guidehouse Insights, podcaster at wheelbearings.media, his car podcast. And of course, he's our car guy. And in a way, you were kind of the shade tree mechanic for your neighbors this week, weren't you?
Well, that was the plan. So we had a major storm that came through our area on Monday night.
Ypsilanti, Michigan.
Yeah, and it hit most of southeast Michigan. You had 70-mile-an-hour wind gusts that brought down a lot of branches and trees. There were several trees down in my neighborhood. It was over 300,000 people in southeast Michigan without power for, in some cases, several days. And ours went out. Fortunately, I have a generator that I bought back in 2003 when we had that big, massive blackout that hit most of the eastern half of the country, and fired that thing up and hooked up to, kept the refrigerators running and, some lights and other things. But the next morning, I got a call from one of my friends at Ford. They just had a batch of F-150 Lightnings that had been part of the employee lease program, some of the early build Lightnings that had just been turned in, and they were about to go to get cleaned up and refurbished and then go off to be sold as used. And they said, hey, would you like us to send over a Lightning? We know your power's out. Would you like us to send one over so you can power stuff? And at first I was going to decline because I have a generator, but then I thought a lot of my neighbors don't have generators. So, yeah, go ahead and bring it over, and I'll hook it up, and we'll get I'll loan my generator to one of the neighbors. And so they brought it over, got everything switched over. Was running. So the Lightning has what they call Pro Power on board. You can get up to 9.6 kilowatts out from 11 outlets. So there's 10 120-volt outlets. There's 4 in the front trunk, 4 in the back, 2 in the cab, and then a 240-volt outlet in case you also need to power your cement mixer or your welding rig or something like that. And ran some extension cords for the truck into the house to power the things, the emergency things we needed. And then, of course, 20 minutes later, the power came back on. But it did work. And, it was, amazingly enough, with all that stuff running, it was only pulling about less than 400 watts from the truck. So
wow.
The truck could have powered, that stuff for at least a week. easily without any problem.
Nice.
And earlier you were mentioning a doctor that finished performing a vasectomy when their power went out using a Rivian pickup truck.
Yeah.
And
how did he do that?
The
Rivian doesn't have the same capabilities as the Ford Lightning, right?
No, it's got a couple of 120 volt outlets. I think it'll put out up to about 2 kilowatts is the maximum. So it's not quite as capable as what you get with the Ford system, but it's better than nothing. And a lot of EVs have built-in inverters where you've got at least a single 120 volt outlet. Some like the new Hyundai and Kia EVs have their vehicle to load system that can put out about 1.9 kilowatts. You get an adapter that plugs into the charge port, and then you can plug in whatever devices you want into that.
So let me just to step back. I'm trying to remember my freshman electric courses. The batteries on these things are DC, is that right? And the cars,
all batteries are DC.
They're DC, direct current. The power you get out of the wall is alternating current, AC. So you need something that converts the DC from the battery into AC, and that's called an inverter.
Correct.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
And you
don't all cars have an inverter?
Most don't.
Oh, okay.
Actually, a fair number of new cars offer that as an option.
If you have an AC plug socket, it's got an inverter.
Yes. Yeah.
Otherwise, you use the cigarette. What used to be called a cigarette lighter is now an accessory
12-volt power port.
Yeah. That's going to be DC. But you may have, if you're using that to do something besides charge a phone, you may have an inverter in whatever it is you're plugging into that, right?
Yeah, you can go out, to most of your big box stores, Target, Walmart, wherever, and you can usually pick up a 400 watt inverter for about $20.
Okay,
and it plugs into that 12 volt power port in your car and puts out 120 amps. So it's not a whole lot of power, but it'll power a few small things. You can power your laptop, charge your phone off of it, things like that. And so it's better than nothing.
Although your laptop wants DC, or no, it doesn't. Does it have an inverter in it too?
The laptop is actually running. Your computer is actually running DC. All the devices inside the computer are DC. The chips and everything are all running DC. But the power port, or the power block is actually an inverter, or the
in the laptop.
Yeah. Because
it has to plug into the wall
out of your wall.
That makes sense.
And it's converting that to DC and putting that into the computer.
So I have these Tesla power walls, which are just big batteries. I have 2 of them, and they charge up, or they stay charged up. But the idea is if the power goes out in the house, instead of a generator, the power walls will power the house. Those are like those car batteries, right?
Yeah, it's basically a smaller version of the battery. It's the same cells that they use in the vehicles. And it's basically a box that's got a battery pack and an inverter built into it.
Interesting. Okay.
So that, it's taking the DC, making that AC to power the devices in your house. If we had appliances and everything in our house that ran on DC, you could skip the inverter. You could just run it directly. And there are companies that make DC appliances.
I think that's what Mr. Tesla wanted. Not the car guy, but Nikola Tesla, who was an early pioneer of electric stuff, right? Did he want AC or did he want DC?
No, he wanted... let me think.
Because
Henry, he wanted AC.
He wanted AC.
It was George Westinghouse and Edison that wanted to do DC.
Okay, yeah,
and they claimed that AC was too dangerous.
So Nikola Tesla won. That's right, because
he lost and he won. Eventually, Westinghouse adopted AC.
Oh, okay.
But he still did not end up making the fortune.
There was something about electrocuting an elephant in this whole thing. All right.
And the challenge with DC, is it's much simpler, but you can't transmit it as far.
It attenuates. It dies out.
It attenuates. Yeah. And whereas AC, you can transmit much more efficiently over very long distances.
So that's why we end up. Yeah. Well, we've learned a lot about electricity today. It actually is interesting because when you're buying an electric vehicle, you're buying a giant, 70, 80, 100 kilowatt battery. And
no, absolutely. And this one of the interesting things that you're going to start seeing. PG&E in California is testing this right now. Is we talked about the home power backup from the lightning, which is all managed locally, which uses a box on your wall. And if it detects your power going out, it will and your truck is plugged in, it will automatically start pulling power from the truck and power your whole home when you're disconnected from the grid. So you're not feeding back into the grid, so you don't accidentally electrocute workers fixing the problem. But that's managed locally. What PG&E is testing right now with GM and Ford is managing that remotely to help avoid some of the rolling blackouts that you have in California during periods of high demand when you're having a heat wave. When they're reaching their peak levels of power demand, they'll be able to reach out and switch. And if for EVs that are plugged in, switch them over to powering the house and reduce the load on the grid so that they can avoid the blackouts. And then it can do that for relatively short periods of time and stagger those around to manage the total load.
How interesting. Sam Abuelsamid, principal researcher at Guidehouse Insights, where he writes about vehicles, lately a lot about EVs. You can also hear his Wheel Bearings podcast everywhere finer podcasts are distributed. Thanks, Sam.
Thank you, Leo.
Okay, Sam, you know what this means.
I do.
You now have to spend an extra 4 minutes and 3 seconds on the air.
All right. So let me first address something that came in from I can't remember who it was now, but somebody was asking about self-charging EVs in the chat. And so the problem there is, it's there have been designs, concepts shown in the past by various people. It's like, yeah, you can put a wind turbine on a car, on an EV, and have it charge while it's driving down the road, doing various other things. The problem with that is when you add a wind turbine onto the car that is charging as you're moving down the road, as the air blowing is driving it, you're actually adding more weight and more drag to the car, which means that your propulsion system is going to have to do more work, and you're probably going to end up worse off than if you just didn't have it at all. You'd be better off without it. There are ways of self-charging an EV, most notably solar. But again, using solar on a car has a lot of challenges because solar panels, photovoltaic panels, generally have a fairly narrow angle with the sun where they really generate power efficiently, which is why, on a house, you will typically see, or even on a solar farm, you will typically see the panels pointed in a certain direction where where the sun is going to be within that angle for the largest period of the day. You don't generally see them mounted flat horizontally on the ground. You want them mounted so they're pointing as perpendicular to the sun as possible. The problem with a car is not usually stationary. If it is, stationary all the time, like a solar farm, then it's not particularly useful as a car. And so it's frequently changing direction. And that angle of incidence to the sun is also changing direction. And so the efficiency of collecting solar power from a car, using a car, is generally pretty low. I had a couple of years ago, I had a Hyundai Sonata hybrid that had a solar roof panel on it to help charge the hybrid battery while it was sitting parked. And just sitting in my driveway, through the middle part of the day, it barely added, less than 1 kilowatt hour, sitting there in the sun all day long, because the panel is horizontal on the roof, and it's not an ideal angle. So solar panels, again, add weight, add costs, not necessarily going to add a whole lot of energy to the car. So charging from an external source is usually the best approach. There are some experiments being done with dynamic wireless charging as you drive down the road. Having an inductive charging system on the bottom of the car, building something into the roadbed. But again, there's an extremely high cost for that. Durability is debatable.
What they really need to work on, I'm sure they are, is improved efficiency solar panels because.
Yeah, that helps.
Yeah.
But it's still, you still have the problem of the panels are not always facing the right direction to collect the sunlight. And that's the fundamental problem with solar on a car is the panels are facing. They could be facing any direction, or not be exposed to the sun at all.
Yeah.
So that's where the problem comes.
Do you want to stick around for the top of the hour?
Sure.
Thank you. We'll talk to you then. Leo Laporte, the smooth jazz tech guy. 8888 Ask Leo, the phone number, 888-827-5536. If you want to talk tech. You know what I've been getting lately, which I like, is people not just with technical problems they need solved, but to talk about, the philosophy of this stuff. And I appreciate that. Don't think I discourage that. That's good. That's good stuff. 8888 Ask Leo. Back to the phones we go. Stephen on the line from Los Angeles. Hello, Stephen.
Hey, thanks for taking the call. I appreciate it.
Of course. Thank you for calling.
Oh, yeah. So I got a Google Voice number for my website, Voice of Andrew. And I'll get an email that says, oh, you have a thing from Google Voice, go to the thing. So I click on it, and it takes me to the app. And I can't figure out how to listen to the message, or is it supposed to be text? Is it supposed to be a text of it?
It's
or
both.
It's
both, yeah.
Or they didn't leave a message, or
yeah.
what? And I click all around the hamburger bars and all that. So I think, oh, ask Leo, what do you do?
How do you listen to it? It's really designed to be done on a phone. So when you have voicemails on the phone and it displays it, it'll display the text, but there'll also be a place you can listen back. In the case of the voicemail in the website, you've gone to voice.google.com. By the way, great service. I pray Google does not kill this. I feel like any day now Google could just say, yeah, we're not making any money on this. Forget about it and have it go away. The only thing that's keeping it maybe is that it's also the back end for Google's phone service, Google Fi. And I suspect that, since they're already running it and making money on it with Fi, maybe it won't be such a big deal. When you go to Google Voice on the web, on the left-hand side, you'll see a variety of icons. One, you can make a phone call, have a list of phone calls. One that has a list of...
Let me hold you there because I do everything on my phone.
Okay, well, should be... Android. Is your phone an Android phone? Okay. So you're opening the Voice app, and I
get the email, and it says you have a thing.
Yeah, the email's no good. You got to go to the Voice app.
Right. So then I tap the thing on the email, and that takes me...
Oh, okay.
That opens up my...
Yeah, that opens the Voice app. Okay.
Yeah.
And in the I have to open my Google Voice app, but in the Voice app, you don't see. I'm looking on the web, and there's actually the universal sign for voicemail recordings, which looks like reel-to-reel tape, upside down reel-to-reel tape. That's the universal sign for voicemail. You should be able to click that and play those back. I certainly can. I'm looking on the web. I have a voicemail. If I click it, it will play it back. So it even says transcription not available at the bottom. It's got a little play button and it'll play back. So I suspect you're just missing. I don't have Google Voice on this phone, unfortunately. I wish I did.
Guess what's happening is there is no message. No one left a message.
Oh, well, that happens all the time. So that's especially in the days of robocalling, that is very common. So if there's no, in fact, the only message I have says transcription not available, and that's because it's just 6 seconds of silence. That's a robocall that failed. So the robocalls know when they hear the voicemail, they go, oh, the heck with you, and they hang up, leaving 6 seconds of nothing. So you can ignore those. Okay. Get somebody to call your Google Voice number and actually leave a message to make sure it will work. Then you'll have a transcript and you'll have a audio that you can play back.
So I brought up one of the emails and it says, you missed a call from blah, 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 whatever the number.
Yeah, I see that a lot. Yeah, those are...
it says, call back, but if there was a message, it would display the message in the email.
It would show the transcript. That's right.
If it was an actual message.
If it's blank, no point in calling back. I mean, it could be somebody who called and got shy or heard your voice message and said, I don't want to leave a message, and hung up. So you at least know that that person called. But yeah, if there is a message, if they leave something, you'll hear it.
Okay, so there'll be the recording icon or whatever.
Yeah.
Then there's nothing. Because when I look at the app, it says,
Andrew, you do voiceover. That's what I went to your site, Voice of Andrew. That's cool.
Thanks.
Yeah. So you do narration, commercials, e-learning, documentaries. And so what you've done, I love this idea, is you've set up Google Voice so people can leave you a message.
Right.
And it's free, which is amazing, frankly.
Yeah.
Awesome. You don't have it so that you could click a link on the website and leave a message? No, they have to call your number. But still.
Or send me a message. There's a thing where they can contact me.
There's an email, there's a contact form. That's very cool. Yeah, I think that's a very good use for Google Voice. But yeah, if there's no message, there will be no audio. And then you don't have to worry about it. I've been using Google. I have a Google Voice number that I use as my primary number, partly because it gives me all sorts of good blocking capabilities. So it will not, for instance, ring through if you're not on my contact list. Or you can even make it more granular. You can say, if they're not in my immediate circle of friends or whatever, you get to name the group and add members to it. If they're not in this group, don't bother ringing. Just send them straight to voicemail. So it's a very good, I think, number to give out as a public number. And that's, in fact, exactly what I do. Thanks, Stephen. Let's go on to Ken on the line from Camarillo, California. Hi, Ken.
Hey, a beautiful day to you, Leo.
Oh, a hot day to you.
Oh, yeah, toasty. I've got an odd question. Long-time listener.
Yeah.
You remember the old screen burn-ins that we used to get in computer screens?
Yeah.
I bought a Samsung Sports 2 active watch about a year and a half ago now.
Okay.
And I put through the Face app, the Wear app, I put a standard face on it.
Yeah.
I'm noticing it's burning in. Have you heard burn in on Samsung watches?
How annoying. Well, Samsung actually has a website. Their support site at Samsung.com prevents screen burn on your Samsung smartwatch. If you notice any discoloration on your smartwatch's screen, it may be experiencing screen burn. Screen burn in is not very common on LCD screens. That's what this is. Or maybe OLED, I don't know. And usually it will go away. But nowadays with watches, most watches are always on, right? So Samsung says it's easy to prevent screen burn. Just make sure the watch screen isn't on. Well, thanks a lot.
And there is a setting for that. It turns off.
Yeah, but I don't want that. I want a wristwatch. I can look at it any time, and that's my Apple Watch is like that. It's got always on. But it doesn't have screen burn. Yeah, they say have it go off. I don't know if that's really, or turn down the brightness. But, screen burn in on LCDs, I think will go away after a time. They call it image retention on LCDs, not burn. I'm trying to remember if that model is OLED or LCD. If one thing you could try is turning the watch off, having it the screen off completely overnight.
I did.
And did that fix it? No.
No, I did. I changed faces on it after I let it sit overnight, turned it back on, and I could still see the image back there of the original screen face.
Wow.
And it's the same thing if you get a message. If you get a text message, it comes in.
That's disappointing, frankly.
In the deep background, you can see the digitals of how many steps I walked and what the time was and that.
I think it's time for a new watch. That's really annoying.
Yeah, wall test, huh?
The only fix I know of for LCD image retention, is to turn it off for a while. And in theory, it's supposed to go away. But I think you can, and obviously you've demonstrated this, make it more permanent. With OLEDs, which you may have, some watches are OLED, they do have screen burn. And usually OLED TVs do a pixel rotation thing to prevent that. Obviously the watch is not doing that. I think maybe Samsung built that in as planned obsolescence. The good news is they just announced new watches, which are quite nice. So maybe that's the solution. Otherwise, I don't know of a fix. Leo Laporte, the tech guy. We'll put a link in the show notes. There is one possibility, Ken, which is to get Samsung to replace it. The chat room is telling me they found a Reddit thread where people are saying we reached out to Samsung and we did get a replacement.
I'll try that. I'll look in the show notes and do that.
Yeah, we'll put a link to this because I'm looking at the image this guy put up. It's exactly as you described. It's just a permanent, numbers on the screen.
It's just like our old screen burn.
Yeah. Yeah, it's back, baby.
Okay. Thank you, Leo.
Thanks.
You have a wonderful day and have a wonderful Labor Day.
Thanks, Ken. You too. Stay cool.
Mm-hmm. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. All right, Sam.
All right.
All yours.
Thank you. So to continue on the topic of self-charging EVs and solar, there have been some vehicles that have offered.
Fisker has solar panels on the roof, but
they offer an optional solar roof panel. Yeah, but there have been some, like the Toyota Prius for a while offered an optional solar panel on the roof. It was a relatively small panel. There have been a few other manufacturers that have done this, and what they do is rather than try to charge a battery or anything with that, they're using it just to provide power to drive the ventilation fan in the car to help keep the inside temperature in the car more manageable. So they'll run some accessories like the ventilation fans with that. But in terms of how much, getting enough power to actually move the vehicle, it's going to be pretty limited. There are some other interesting things that are being done, especially around wireless charging. A couple of people in the chat mentioned BMW. They were working with a Massachusetts-based company called Ytricity that has been a leader in developing wireless charging solutions for vehicles. And they piloted first in Germany with the 5 Series plug-in hybrid. And then they also did this in California a couple of years ago with the same car. I think in California, they only offered a few hundred of them, offering the wireless charging system as an option. And what this does, it requires you to install a transmitter pad in the floor of your garage, and then have a receiver pad mounted on the bottom of your car. And because it's wireless, it's a non-contact wireless solution. So there are some challenges with this, both in terms of power that can be transmitted, and also some safety challenges. So among the things they have to do with wireless power transfer systems like this, they have to have sensors in there to detect metal objects or live objects, animals, cats, mice, whatever, that happen to decide to walk underneath the car and get in between the two pads of the wireless charger and then automatically turn it off. If a metal object falls under there, again, you don't want that in there. Right now, these systems are still fairly pricey. Genesis is actually offering it as an option in the Korean market on the GV60, their newest EV. And I think in 2023, they may start offering it as an option here in the US. Early on, there were, some of the problems with it was a lack of standards and interoperability between solutions from different companies. That has now been worked out. There are standards for wireless power transfer for electric vehicles. And there may be a market for it. It's still going to be a much more expensive solution than any wired solution for the foreseeable future. But where it can make sense is for something like transit buses. Transit buses run on a fixed route. They stop at the same place all the time on their route. And if you can build a transit bus with a smaller battery capacity, it can be lighter, it can be less expensive, and then have some wireless power transfer pads at several of the stops along the route where the bus is maybe stopped for several minutes to load and unload passengers. There's a company called Momentum Dynamics that their focus has been on wireless power for buses. They can do up to 200 kilowatts, which is similar to what you get from a lot of the DC fast charging systems. So if you can have a bus stop over one of these pads for 5 minutes at 200 kilowatts, you can put enough juice back into the battery for it to do, another lap around its route. Or, if you have a couple of stops along the route where it does this, you can keep it running all day without having to plug it in. So there are a variety of interesting solutions. Someone was asking about whether the infrastructure bill will help to improve the situation with the charging and with the utilities and the networks. It should. In addition to having $7.5 billion for public charging infrastructure, there's also several $billion focused on improving, making grid improvements, which is really the biggest challenge we have right now. It's not so much the power generating capacity. We have enough power generating capacity to support a full fleet of EVs. It's the grid and having enough capacity in the grid to transmit the power to the places where it's needed when it's needed. So the infrastructure bill will help for that. But there's also other things, as I mentioned, I think with what PG&E and other utilities are doing with testing, doing load balancing, using EVs that are plugged in and not currently being utilized. If they, where they're reaching their peak of their capacity, their transmission capacity, take some of the homes and businesses offline. And one of the really interesting applications for this is with school buses, electric school buses. They're becoming more and more popular. They're still fairly expensive, but they offer for vehicle to grid integration and provide a real benefit because of the use case of school buses. They're typically doing runs early in the morning, doing runs in the afternoon, taking kids home from school, and most of them are usually sitting mostly idle most of the day, particularly in the middle of the day and then at night. So if you have a decent sized battery on there and you've got a fleet of school buses that are plugged in, during some of the peak times of the day, the utilities can pull some of the power out of those buses and feed it back into the grid to provide extra capacity at certain times. And when they do that, the fleet operator, whether it's a school district or somebody running the school bus fleet for a district, they get paid for that power. So there's some good revenue opportunities there for savings, to help offset some of the extra costs of the electric school buses. Let's see, what else did I have here? Chumley was asking about, so charging in the garage. So yeah, I talked about that. Twisted Mister was mentioning AC motors and EVs. Yeah. All EVs are using AC motors. So this is one of the interesting DC batteries provide DC. They take in and they release battery current as direct current. But AC motors are more efficient than direct current motors. And they can provide more power with less energy use. So what you find in all EVs is that they have AC motors in there. So there is an inverter, the power electronics module in every EV that does that conversion back and forth between AC and DC. So when you're accelerating, it takes the DC, turns it to AC to power the motors. When you're doing regenerative braking, it's going back in the opposite direction. The motors are generating AC. It's being turned back into DC and sent back into the battery to recharge the vehicle as you drive. And somebody also mentioned in the chat about wireless charging and efficiency. The things like Qi wireless chargers used for phones are not particularly efficient, but the wireless power systems for cars, for EVs, are actually upwards of 90% efficient. They're specifically designed for that because of the high power levels.
Thank you, Sam. Have a great week. Stay cool. Stay dry.
I will try.
Stay powered up.
I will try.
We'll see you next time.
I'll talk to you next Sunday.
Thanks, Sam. Thanks so much.
Bye.
Well, hey. How are you today? Leo Laporte here, the tech guy. Time to talk computers and the internet and home theater and digital photography and smartphones and smartwatches and all that jazz. Smart cars. 8888 Ask Leo is the phone number. That's how you get a hold of us. We could talk about anything on your mind. 888-827-5536. Toll free from anywhere in the U.S. or Canada. Outside that area, Skype out will still work. If you can call a phone line from your Skype or your voice over the internet, it should work just fine, and it should still be free. 8888 Ask Leo. The website where I put links to everything we talk about is techguylabs.com. That's free. There's no charge, no sign up. Just go on in there. There'll be links. By the end of the day, there will also be audio and video from the show in a couple of days, as well as a transcript with the times of each, kind of each section, so you can jump right to that section. techguylabs.com. So you don't have to write anything down as you listen to the show. Let's go back to the phones. Harrisburg, PA. Scott is on the line. Hello, Scott.
Hey, how you doing, Leo?
I am well. How are you?
I'm fantastic. Long-time listener. Been listening since the CNET days, way back in the 90s.
Oh, my. The good old days. Well, what can I thank you for your patronage, I guess is what I would say. And I hope I have not been patronizing. What can I do for you today?
I'm having this issue that's just driving me batty. It's been for some time. I have a Lenovo laptop, and every time I restart it, this Windows PowerShell thing comes up. It's like a big blue screen. It comes up like a couple of windows pop up. Nothing on it, so I can X out of those. And then as I'm using it, it'll pop up every now and again, just like things random. It'll pop up. Sometimes it'll stay on the screen for a couple of seconds and go away. Now, I tried to disable it in my startup, and so it's not supposed to start up.
No.
Windows PowerShell.
Yeah.
But it's still starting up for some reason. How do I stop it?
So there are a lot of ways that programs can start up in Windows, as you have learned. There, of course, is the startup folder, but you've already checked that. There are many other ways to do it. And my concern, PowerShell is the command line, right? It's the new command line for Windows. And my concern is that it also is used sometimes for malware. And it may be that you got some malware on there that is attempting to start up a script. The good news is the script's not running, or we think it's not running.
Yeah. Literally for a year. So, I mean, it's not like I'm noticing anything.
It's very annoying. You would notice something maybe not. Sometimes people want to take over computers, not to hack them, but to use them in an attack against others, that kind of thing. And you may not notice that. They may just be sitting there waiting. And in fact, that may be why PowerShell is launching. Who knows, is to check and see. Any commands for me, oh my master? So the first thing to do is to get it to stop. The easiest way to do this is with a program from Microsoft. They don't give you automatically. But a guy named Marquardt created these years ago, I think more than 20 years ago. They're called, his company was called SysInternals. And Microsoft hired him, and he's running Azure now, and bought all the programs, and they offer them for download. So if you search for Microsoft, and the one that you probably want to use, this is the auto runs program. So there's Process Explorer, which will tell you what's running. Not a bad thing to look at that. In fact, I generally, when I install a new version of a new copy of Windows, I will download all of them. You can download them in one big zip file. But auto runs will tell you, it looks in every place that Windows looks to start up, and it'll tell you everything that's supposed to start up automatically. It may not say PowerShell, though. It may be the name of a command that invokes that runs in PowerShell. And so what'll happen if you had a document that was, and I don't know what the extension would be on Windows. In a Unix environment, it'd be .sh, for instance, for shell. If you had a .sh file and it was scheduled to open every hour, it would launch PowerShell and then run. PowerShell, I think it's Recon5 in our chat room saying is PS1. So PS1 or PSM, or look for a file that begins with .ps something, and that may well be the script that's running that's launching PowerShell. I would examine it just to make sure it's not doing anything malicious. You have
So you said that's from SysInternals Live?
Yeah. So if you Google Microsoft SysInternals, get it from Microsoft. Do not get it from anywhere else. You know, that's very common that bad guys will use the name of something Microsoft offers, but it'll come from badguy.com. You want to make sure it comes from Microsoft.com. And there are quite a few actually very useful little tools. They're not big. They're very fast. Mark keeps them up to date, which is nice. Yeah, it's 25 years old. I'm looking at the website now. Holy cow. And the one you want is Auto Runs, which will tell you everybody should have this. Auto Runs version 14 will tell you everything that's going on. I'm going to cross my fingers, but make sure, one thing you could do is run Windows Defender, do a thorough scan. Maybe if it turns up nothing, you can go there to antivirus.com and run an online scan. You want to scan and make sure there's no bad scripts running. You don't need to install another virus. In fact, I don't recommend that. But you can run an online scanner just to see if you don't get anything from Microsoft's own Defender. You already have an antivirus running, and it's a good one. But it didn't catch this, so maybe it's something else. Who knows?
I never heard of this Auto Runs. That looks pretty cool, like a tool I never thought of before. Great.
Yeah, it's a great thing to have. Yeah, everybody should have. Frankly, I put all the SysInternals on there. Process Explorer, you can run that, and you can see all the things running in the background. Hundreds of things running in the background. It's kind of Task Manager on steroids. There's a lot of useful tools in there. But, Auto Runs is very useful.
Great. Well, Leo, thank you so much for your help. That's going to keep me busy looking around.
You got a good Sunday ahead. Yeah, the weekend is a good time to do these little honeydews on the computer. Nice to meet you. Thank you for listening all these years, Scott. I appreciate it. Some, additional ideas from the chat room. Boot into safe mode. See what's running in safe mode versus what's running in normal mode. The difference will be the things that are like whatever's starting up PowerShell. I bet you PowerShell does not start in safe mode. It might, though. It might. Retcon5, who apparently is a Auto Runs user, he knows all about it, says uncheck the Microsoft entries because there's a lot of them. So you only see the oddball Auto Runs, the ones that aren't started by Microsoft, because Microsoft, of course, starts a lot of stuff in the background, a lot of services and so forth. 8888 asks, Leo, Jim is next from Cameron, Wisconsin. Hi, Jim, you're on.
Hi.
Welcome.
I got a problem with the small disk where all the stuff is for the apps and stuff is getting full. The big disk is 2 gigs. It's got very little on it.
Yes.
Does it matter what I transfer?
Yes. Very much so.
I thought so. That's why I asked you.
So you have a Windows PC with 2 drives, a little one that's probably the faster of the 2, and a big one.
Right.
Yeah. How little is the little one? Do you know?
256.
Yeah. So that's plenty for Windows and probably plenty for all the applications that you run. But it's not plenty for your photos, your movies, your documents. Those start to fill up the drive pretty quickly. So
right, and I've moved all that stuff, but it seems that all this stuff on there, some kind of programs and stuff that came on, they keep putting on there when you update or whatever, it's that kind of stuff. And
yeah.
Is it a big deal if I move it? I mean, it'd be a little...
Yeah. You have to be very careful because some of those programs expect to be on C. If they're not on C, what's going on? So there are some good little programs that you can run to see what's taking up all that space. I think that's the first thing to do. You can just do... Go ahead.
I've gone and looked at that, yeah, and it tells me all the programs are on there and stuff and how much room they're taking. And
yeah, Windows Explorer, for instance, if you sort by size, will tell you what the biggest things are. Right. There's also some really cool graphical programs that will show you what's going on. You want to figure out what the big... Ideally, it's the data files. Those are easy to move. In fact, what you can even do with Windows is say, look, I want my home directory, when you log in, when you first set up Windows, you give it your name, and it's going to create a directory with your name in it. Might be Jim, for all I know.
Right.
C:\users:\Jim. You can just say, I want Jim to live somewhere else. You could do that in the properties, and you could say that could go on the D drive. In fact, that's a good way to do it, I think, is put all the, move all of that stuff over. Couple of people are giving us some good ideas for software you can run. Disk Report, which is freeware. The letter J, Disk Report, will tell you what's going on, what's using up all the stuff. Don't move apps. Ideally, Windows and all of the programs you install should be on the C drive, because otherwise they can. Some of them will run, some of them won't. But J, Disk Report will tell you what's occupying all that space. Almost always, in my experience, it's your data, the stuff in your home directory that's using up all that space.
Okay.
And you, I presume, are using, Windows has some cleanup things that will delete temp files and stuff like that.
Right.
And you've run that also, huh? Yeah.
Yeah, and it lasts a week or something, and then
So
loads back up in the morning. Unfortunately. 256 is plenty for almost everybody's applications in Windows. It's the other stuff that takes up all that space. If I just move some programs they've got on there that I don't use.
Yeah, or uninstall them. Yeah, you can move them, and then you can move them back. Honestly, many programs will run on a D drive, so you could experiment. Sure. Usually, programs aren't that big. It's the data files that tend to eat space up. 8888, ask Leo the phone number. If you've got some suggestions, maybe for organizing your Windows folders, this would be a good time to call. Chris Marquardt, photo guy, is also coming up in about 15. You stay right here. Hibernation file, turn that off. You don't want hibernation. Turn off fast startup. All sorts of ways to save money or save space on a Windows hard drive. Windows.old, if you upgraded from a previous version of Windows, get rid of that. WinDirStat is the one I was trying to remember. That's a beautiful graphical program. We'll put that in the show notes. WinDirStat. That's really a good thing to have around. Because it gives you blobs, color blobs. I'll put a link in the show notes to that. That's a good one. I've done that many times. It's the beauty of BTRFS. Just say, expand my drive. I just put in a new drive. I think my Synology uses BTRFS as well, as I remember. How are you doing, Chris Marquardt? How you be?
I'm doing just fine. Thank you.
Good.
And how are you?
I am well, and you can hear me, which is good. We had a little trouble earlier, but everything's good.
Okay. You have an email. I want to talk about 3 news items today.
Got it. I will have it ready if you want me to run the slideshow.
Okay. I have links. You can show some of the websites, but it's mostly talking.
Okay. Good. Yeah, it's nice to pull these up. Good. All right.
Yeah.
Yeah, Stable Diffusion is wild. There is a wonderful Stable Diffusion search engine. Do you know about that?
There is. There's also a prompt generator. So
right. To help you.
We have a Cambrian explosion of things.
That's amazing. That's a good way to describe it. Yeah. I use lexica.art, and it's nothing you can't find. It's amazing. Yep. All right, we'll talk in a bit. Leo Laporte, the tech guy. 8888, ask Leo. Lucille. This is episode 1924. So maybe you could find a song we're starting to get into the recorded music era. Professor Laura, musical director. It's going to sound a little tinny. 1924, I'd mention that because if you go to techguylabs.com, you can go by episode. If you go to 1924, that's this episode. That's today. And there will be at the website, Jim, a lot of tools for figuring out what's going on with your Windows drive and, what's taking up all that space. There's also some good suggestions from the chat room, things like turning off Hibernate, I don't like to use Hibernate on any system. Hibernate is a special kind of sleep. It's a very low power sleep. Sleeping will kind of turns your monitor off, turns off, background processes, except those are absolutely necessary, things like refreshing RAM, and lets your machine go into a low power mode. And I do use sleep. Most machines can wake from sleep without too much grogginess. There's an even lower power mode called Hibernate, which actually takes the contents of RAM, of memory, and saves it out to your hard drive. Now, these days, memory is big. Memory, typically 16 gigabytes, 32 gigabytes, maybe more. So it's making a file on your hard drive that's that big, Hibernate.sys, storing the RAM there. And then when you wake up, so once it does that, it can actually shut the computer down to almost virtually the off state. All it's monitoring is for key presses. And then when it sees a key press, it says, oh, I got to wake up, and reloads RAM with all that stuff in Hibernate.sys. Just blasts it up into memory again. The reason being, it takes a certain amount of power to refresh RAM, to keep it your data in it. So it saves it to the hard drive, which doesn't need power. But I think a lot of computers have trouble waking up from hibernation. It does take up a lot of disk space. So turn off Hibernate. It's in your power settings. If you have that on, that'll save some space. Unfortunately, modern computers, all operating systems, need a lot of free space to do their job. So it is a good idea to make sure that C drive has, I would say, at least 30 or 40 gigabytes free out of the 256. 8888 Ask Leo. All of that, we'll put that in the show notes there, techguylabs.com. Nancy, Charlotte, North Carolina, next. Hi, Nancy.
Hey, Leo. How are you doing?
I'm great.
Listener.
Well, thank you, and welcome.
Thank you. Well, I don't know about all this tech stuff that you guys do, but I learned little tidbits.
Oh, I'm glad you listen anyway. I know it's probably like a foreign language, but thank you.
Yeah, you never know what you'll pick up.
Okay.
Well, I was just wondering, what is the best internet service? I can only get Spectrum, T-Mobile, or Verizon.
Okay. This is an interesting question. And, of course, it completely is dependent on where you are. So, generally, up till recently, we would say that if you have a choice between a phone company's internet, and I mean your landline phone company, whoever that is, the incumbent carrier, AT&T.
Yeah, AT&T.
Yeah,
and they don't come out here.
They may have DSL, but you're so far out of town that they won't do it. So that's good. That's usually the slowest choice, also the cheapest. Cable's usually the fastest choice, Spectrum.
Okay.
But it's also usually the priciest choice. And an interesting thing has been happening. New cable internet signups have dropped to almost zero.
Wow.
Because of T-Mobile and Verizon. Both companies offer cellular-based home internet, residential internet. And they can, if you're already a customer, for instance, I'm a Verizon customer. I set my daughter up with a Verizon home internet system that's $25 a month because I'm an existing customer, and gives her a very, very good throughput, about 130 megabits down and about 30 up, which is more than enough. But it does require, to get that kind of speed, that you be close to a 5G cell tower. So that you are. That's good news. So that's one thing. I wouldn't assume that T-Mobile or Verizon's residential internet is going to work for you, but in most cases you can try, and if it doesn't give you the speeds you want, you can say, yeah, it's not working out, and get your money back. But I would not hesitate. I'm hearing some negatives on T-Mobile. The only negative that I hear is that they sometimes promise that you have that 5G and then you get it and it turns out you didn't. That they don't seem to know where their towers are. Verizon, though, I've had very good, just anecdotally, very good experience with. So those are actually a new competitor to cable that I think is quite good if you're in an area where you can get that speed.
Okay. And is that thing that they modem? I'm not sure even what it's called.
You get a little box that goes in your house. It's all Wi-Fi.
Well, and now they offer it.
Hold on just a sec, because I have to take a break. Chris Marquardt coming up. I'll talk to you off the air. Leo Laporte, the tech guy. And then, it also may depend on how many people are using it and so forth. So go ahead. I'm sorry. I had to cut you off there, Nancy. Go ahead.
No, that's okay. You're so nice and calm. That's why I like to listen to you.
I'm seething inside, Nancy, though. I mean, it's only... No, I'm calm.
I'm glad to hear it, because I know I am.
There's lots to seethe about these days. So go ahead. What was it you wanted to know?
Okay. They have that thing that they say you can take your internet wherever you go. Like if you go to... the mountains, you just take that thing with you, and if there's a tower nearby, you can still have good internet speed or have internet with that thing.
So they sell, all the phone companies sell something I call a MiFi, which is a little unit that is a Wi-Fi access point, and it gets its data from the cell towers. They don't want you to use that for residential, though. So they want you to use that for travel and things like that, or going up to the mountains, that kind of thing. So if you're at home, it's better to get their residential service. And to date, only Verizon and T-Mobile offer that. And you have to be in an area where they've got a nearby 5G tower and all of that. And what they do with the MiFi to limit your use is they have bandwidth caps. The price goes up or the speed goes down after a certain period, a certain amount of usage, that kind of thing. So those are really intended as travel routers, not so much as home internet.
Home internet.
Yeah.
Okay.
But Verizon and T-Mobile both have what they call residential service.
Residential.
And who is your cell phone provider right now?
AT&T.
Yeah. So you won't get the deal. In fact, it might be a good excuse to move to I'd call Verizon first if they have a tower near you. Do you know who has a tower near you?
Verizon.
Okay. So that may even be a reason to move to Verizon because, at least because I was already a Verizon customer. They're the most expensive cell service, but I did get a deal on internet. It was only $25 a month.
That's not bad.
That's really good.
Well, if you trust them, then I'll trust them.
Yeah.
I've just stuck with AT&T for so long, and it's scary to me to...
Oh, I don't blame you.
Stuff.
But if you say to them, hey, I'm thinking of moving my entire business to you, they may give you a good deal. They'll certainly give you a new phone.
Well, that's my other question. I need a new phone. I have a 10 Pro Max.
That's fine. So, it's not out of date yet.
So just keep using this one till it...
I would.
Well, I know how to do it and use it.
you have a few more years. The only reason you might want to upgrade to the new one's going to be the 14 Pro Max is it'll have a better camera. But if that doesn't matter, I mean, the 10 Pro is very nice, so I wouldn't worry about it.
Okay. Oh, well, good. Well, I'm going to have to call you back next week because then we have to discuss my Mac computer.
Okay, deal. I'll make you a deal. I'll talk to you next week, Nancy. Hey, thank you for the call, and thank you for the kind words. I appreciate it.
Sure. Bye-bye.
All right, take care. Bye-bye. How cute. Hello, Chris Marquardt.
Hello.
Oh, that's interesting, user 5742. So it's still happening. Yeah, they didn't like it that we made a big deal about it. They said, oh, it was just an accident. I'm going to send this to Lisa. Wow. Yeah, I think there's a bug. I think there's something wrong with QuickBooks. Let me send this to Lisa. She'll be very interested to see this.
I'm just reading that. It does not look nice.
What happened to us, a bunch of people, all 1099 employees were given access to our QuickBooks.
Yay!
Here we go, Chris. All right, you camera bugs. It's time for Chris Marquardt, our photo guy. Chris, of course, is my personal photo sensei at sensei.photo, where he does coaching and workshops and all sorts of stuff. He's published a number of books on digital photography, hosts the #1 camera podcast in the world, Tips from the Top Floor, and joins us every week. Hi, Chris.
Hi, Leo.
From the Viewfinder Villa.
That's where I am, yes.
So you have some news for us today.
Well, I do a bunch of other podcasts, and some of them are more on the photography news side. So I thought I'd bring a couple of those news items. Pick 3 to talk about here. News from the photography world. So we're not really going to learn a lot about how to shoot pictures and how to compose pictures, but there's a few things that I find pretty interesting. The first one is the answer to the question: have smartphones really taken over? We always have this discussion that smartphones are getting better and better, and the camera manufacturers are seeing that in the sales numbers of their entry-level compact digital cameras. And so Panasonic has just announced that they will stop developing entry-level point-and-shoot cameras.
Oh, I use their Lumix.
Nikon as well.
Oh, the Lumix is an excellent point-and-shoot. But yeah, you're right. I don't think they will. I think they will still be available. They just won't develop any new models. Yeah. So they want to refocus more on pricier mirrorless cameras. I think they're in trouble there too. Honestly, as smartphones get better and better, and computational photography takes over, I don't know. I don't need to carry a DSLR.
What I heard is that they want to do cameras that they don't want to invest in cameras that could be replaced by a smartphone, which I find an interesting move because the sales are down quite a bit in that segment. By saying that they'll stop development on cameras that could be replaced by smartphones, they also kind of try to put the smartphone in the same bin as the cheap entry-level compact cameras. And I'm not sure that's where the smartphones are. I think they're a bit more capable than that. So it's an interesting move. And smartphones have like portrait mode. They have built-in HDR. They shoot 4K HDR video, so they're quite capable. Well, anyway, that's the first bit of news. The second one is more on the tech side, and it has to do with sensors. So what we're looking at when we're looking at a typical digital camera is a so-called Bayer sensor. And if you take a microscope, if you look at the sensor, you will see that the sensor has red, green, and blue pixels, and they are next to each other. So they are in one plane on the sensor. And then the camera has to do some really smart math to make them into the picture that you see. And then there's another sensor by Sigma called the Foveon sensor.
That's gone. That's long gone. They announced that years ago.
No, it's not.
What?
No, it's not. The Foveon sensor is coming back. So technically speaking, it's a sensor that stacks the red, green, and blue on top of each other, like if you had a few sheets of paper stacked on top of each other, and that's pretty much very close to how film works.
It was supposed to be
layers on top of each other.
A much improved sensor, and but only Sigma had it. And as I remember, like people just kind of said, "Yeah, it's not," so they stopped buying it.
Well, the thing is, you have a few advantages. You have no color moire patterns, like these little patterns. If you have repeating structures, you don't need an anti-aliasing filter that makes the picture slightly less sharp, like the Bayer sensor. You get really good sharpness, even with a lower pixel count on your sensor. And the development had kind of stalled for quite a while. Nothing new came on the market. It turns out that a partner of Sigma who did the development for them was a bit overwhelmed with the complexity of things. So Sigma has now taken that in-house, and they are now working on a full-frame Foveon sensor. And they say that by the end of the year, they want to have a camera out full-frame with a Foveon sensor. So I think it's a good thing to have more than just one type of sensor out there. So I'm looking forward to what that's going to bring. Movement in an area that we thought was dead.
Yeah, it would be very interesting, yeah. Foveon is, I think the name comes from a part of the eye, doesn't it? How the eye works.
The fovea, yeah.
Yeah, the fovea, yeah. Well, all right, I'm up for it. I'll let you buy the first one.
Anyway.
How about that?
If I only could afford one.
Yeah.
So last but not least, third item on the news list is something that has happened over the last few weeks. We have talked about image generators here before, of DALL-E by OpenAI, for
last
example.
Week. Yeah.
There's Mid-Journey. There's like a lot of them now out there now. And a new kid on the block is called Stable Diffusion. And that is very interesting because it is open source. They open source.
Yeah, you can download
models.
it. And you can run it on your own computer if you have enough horsepower.
if you have a decent GPU, if you are a bit techie right now, it's really early days, but pretty much the amount of innovation that has spawned is just amazing.
Yeah, it was only a few weeks ago that they released it.
2 weeks.
And already it's taken off. And I think the images on Stable Diffusion are better than any of them. Maybe Midjourney is the closest competitor. Better than DALL-E 2.
You know, the latest beta of Midjourney is using Stable Diffusion under the hood now.
There you go.
That's why. So again, you have to be a bit techie to get it all working at this point. But then there's also a website that has now put it online with like a simplified interface, and it's called thumbsnap.com/gen, GEN, which gives you a prompt that you can put a prompt in, like it gives you a form that you can put a prompt in and let it do its work.
So you don't have to run it on your stuff. You let it generate.
It runs on someone else's server, and I think they're having a beta right now where you can try it for free. So if you try this in a week from now, it might be gone. But at this point, it is a nice way to play with Stable Diffusion. I've read somewhere that someone said that we're seeing a Cambrian explosion of creativity.
That's a good way to put it. That was the explosion. I said a photographer using a banana camera. I don't think it's a banana, but okay.
Well, you will also learn pretty quickly that the prompt engineering, the building of prompts is an art in itself. So you'll have to try things. Okay, here's one more tip. If you go online, if you search for Stable Diffusion prompt builder.
I talked about this yesterday. I think this is the new computer programming. As computers get smarter, we can use more natural language. And I think the future of computer programming is people who have kind of spent some time understanding these prompts. There we go. There's a photographer using a camera made of cheese.
Well, not too bad.
Not too bad. Not too bad. It looks like just a big brick of cheddar.
Right.
So, but it's fun that you can do this in 30 seconds. It's amazing, right?
It's amazing, and if anyone wants to try it, promptomania.com. That's a place where you can try a prompt builder. It will help you to make a prompt that gives you.
There is an art to it.
More, let's say, cinematic results and things. So you can learn. Everyone can learn now. So it's an amazing time.
These are images generated from whole cloth. Although lately there's been some complaints that Stable Diffusion may actually be using a lot of copyrighted images that it scrapes from the web of photographers like you. We'll talk about that another time. That's a big topic. But before you go,
the ethics discussion is still to be had. Yes.
Before we go, I do want to ask you what our assignment is, because we're taking pictures this week.
Current assignment is evil.
Evil. Are they allowed to use Stable Diffusion to generate? Start with a.
Maybe we can't even tell if they use.
You won't know. Evil. So here's what happens. Every week you could, take a lot of pictures. Anytime you see something evil, take a picture of it. If you find one you like, upload it to flickr.com, tag it TG for Tech Guy, TG Evil, submit it to the Tech Guy group, and in a few weeks, Chris will review your submissions. Have fun. Yeah, I like Midjourney. I've been using Midjourney. You could do that in a Discord server. It's pretty cool what's going on here, I have to say.
Yeah, there's now even a Discord bot for Stable Diffusion. There's like 100 different projects out there being active right now. They have just, I think, ported it to the Apple M1 chip.
Yeah,
and there's other.
It really is.
Things.
I think Cambrian explosion is a very good description. It just
They reduced the amount of VRAM gigabytes to 2.8 now in one of the latest forks. It's crazy. It's absolutely crazy.
Wow.
So
fascinating.
And whatever we said right now will be obsolete in a week from now, because the development is so fast right now.
Yeah, and I noticed the really good prompts have a lot of additional adjectives about the style.
If you go to Promptomania, it'll take a while. It'll take a while to suss out the interface, but you can build really complex, really long prompts with 50 different modifiers and things. So there is there is a bit of a learning curve there for sure.
And you can choose which you want to use. I'll use Midjourney. So, photographer, add prompt part. You are amazing. Keep at.
So,
go ahead.
Just put the cheese camera, photographer using a camera made of cheese as a prompt, and then down there you can click on add some details, and then you can choose what art medium, what camera, what color, what display, what geometry, and so on. It gets really deep in there, but you end up and then mimic the style of an artist. So it has a whole list of different artist styles and things to choose from, and you can combine everything.
You can get a base image. Add some details.
The base image is just for you to visualize the different things. Color. That is not going to be used.
Okay. Advanced compound details, image improvement tools.
It gets quite involved.
Wow. Oh, now here's where you do the artist. Okay. Let's do Andy Warhol. Okay. Wow. All right. Quite a few of those. So let me take
and then
Salvador
on the top, you'll find the prompt. At the top, you can just copy the prompt from the line at the top.
And here it is. And then how do I submit it?
Oh, you throw it into Midjourney. So you need a Midjourney window
to
open somewhere. You need access to Midjourney. Yeah, okay. This is just for building the prompts. It's just a helper.
Very interesting. I wonder if I could put this into this.
Yeah, that's no, not really.
This may not like it, huh?
You'll get something. You'll get something. It'll pick out some keywords, but the different prompting styles are not necessarily the same for the different.
I think I chose Midjourney
engines.
for this one. Yeah.
Yeah. So
interesting.
Might be fun.
Chris, fun is right. I love this subject. Thank you.
See you in a week.
Take care.
All right. Take care.
1924. What a great year. So there you go. We're in the recorded music era, aren't we? Episode 1924. We're also, I believe in prohibition, so put that drink down. 8888 Ask Leo, the phone number. Tim's on the line from Escondido, California. Hello, Tim.
Hey, Leo.
Hey.
Thanks for taking the call.
Thanks for calling.
Been a long-time listener, first-time caller. Something that's been on my mind for a number of years, actually, is I'd like to maybe set up a small e-commerce business through one of the regular e-commerce sites, and I'm looking for some suggestions on entry-level shipping label printers and scales and what software I would need. I have an iPhone 13 for a camera, but
which is more than enough for any website. So you're going to set up a Shopify or a WordPress or a Wix or a Squarespace e-commerce site. When you go to those e-commerce sites, many of them will already have a shipping partner, somebody like ShipStation or Stamps.com. And actually, I think that's the same company now. I think Stamps.com bought ShipStation. Those are companies that offer software that integrate with your shopping cart. So the first thing to decide is where you're going to put this store. Are you going to use a storefront like BigCommerce or somewhere like that?
I don't know a whole lot about it. I was just thinking.
I would suggest doing that. No, well, okay, you can do it on eBay. That's true. Depends. So if you're doing it on eBay, you're using the eBay site. And there's a lot of reason to do that. People search eBay for stuff all the time. So if you're selling on eBay, that's different. If you wanted your own website where you're selling your own stuff, then you would go to somebody like Shopify or any number of other places to create a site. But let's say you're going to do eBay. eBay also has, I bet you, shipping partners so you should check and see which shipping partner they use, and then that will determine the hardware that you need. So you see, it's a kind of you'd have to know where to start. So let's say, assume you're starting at eBay. Then they use a variety of people like I think they use ShipRush. Okay, so that's going to be software. What's nice is that integrates into your site on eBay. So you don't have to fill in anything by hand. It just kind of sucks it right up. They negotiate with the shippers, so you'll get often a deal with the shippers. They also may integrate into your CRM software or your bookkeeping software, things like that. So I'm looking at ShipRush, for instance. Once you figure out who that partner is, then you say, okay, now what do I need to do to print? And it depends what you're going to be shipping. Are they going to be packages or envelopes? For instance, some printers will print right on envelopes, and some of these print partners, these shipping partners, will actually give you a label that you can print right onto the envelope. I know Stamps.com, for instance, does that. Others will print on a plain sheet of paper, print a shipping label that you tape on the box, and that'll include postage, by the way, all the costs, because they'll have a QR code on there, a barcode on there.
And you just tape it.
And then you could just tape it on. But they may also say you can also use Avery labels number 4372 or whatever. But the shipping partner will tell you what you'll need to make that work. Generally, you don't need a special printer because almost all inkjet printers will work these days. But they'll let you know if there is anything special you need to do. So so this is the order, right? Pick where you're going to be selling, see who they use as a shipping partner. You may have several choices. Then visit the shipping partner and see what kind of printer you need to make those labels. And it also will depend very much on what you're shipping. If you're shipping books, for instance, you may be shipping on padded envelopes. Then you might want to get a sticky label that you can slap right on the envelope. That saves you a lot of time.
Yeah. I've sold on eBay in the past, but it's taken me so long to take the picture, create.
I know. I know.
It takes 20 minutes.
Well, build that into the price, right? That's part of the deal. eBay uses, I think, ShipRush. So I don't know if they use others, but I know they use ShipRush. So then the next step would be to go to ShipRush. And in fact, they even have, people you can call. In fact, I even see, talk with a shipping expert. We'll help you identify your shipping needs and get up and running in a snap. So you can schedule an appointment and you can ask those questions. The reason I say that is it's specific to what you're using. Right, and how you're going to ship. Are you going to ship media mail? Are you going to ship boxes? Are you going to ship envelopes? What is it? If you're just selling stickers, you put them in an envelope. So you'd want a printer that'll print on an envelope, that kind of thing. So it's very much specific, right?
Okay.
All right.
All right.
Good luck. What are you going to sell?
Oh, I was going to start with all the extra junk we have around the house.
Yeah. My wife keeps saying, I need to hire somebody to sell my jewelry because she doesn't want to do what you just described. I even bought for her, they sell them on Amazon, a light box that you can put stuff in with seamless in it that lights it from all sides for taking pictures for eBay. I don't think she's ever used it, but we're ready. We're ready. Yeah, it is a lot of work to put stuff up for sale. That's why I think she wants to hire somebody to do that on commission. Wayne on the line from San Diego, California. Hi, Wayne.
Yes, good afternoon, Leo. Happy Labor Day.
Happy Labor Day weekend. Yes, that's right.
Wonderful. I was calling to inquire about the Arsenal 2.
Oh, I have one.
You have one?
I have one. I think it's a really interesting idea. I've yet to use it. But I bought it. I fell for it reading I think they did a Kickstarter initially. The idea is it's actually a little tiny computer that goes in the flash shoe of your camera and then plugs in to your camera so that you can use it for a variety of things. And it depends, you'd have to be taking those kinds of shots. Generally, you'd use a tripod because almost all the shots take multiple exposures. The Arsenal computer on the camera determines what exposures to take. So you could do time lapse, you could do extra pixels, extra deep pixels, so you get sharper photos. It does that by shooting multiple images that it then combines. It has its own memory, so it can store it into memory. So if you are somebody who wants to do something called high dynamic range photography, that's why I got it. But there are other reasons you might want to use it. If you go, for instance, to a very popular tourist attraction, and you want to take a picture, but you don't want all the tourists in the picture. The Arsenal will automatically take the right number of images to get rid of the people and then merge them intelligently so that you just have a picture of the pyramids and not all the people at the base of the pyramid. They also let you do astrophotography, night photography. So it's a very clever, I think it's a very clever idea. It also ties into your phone. So I only wish I could say I'd used it so I could give you a direct review, but I know many people who have them and are very happy with them. So I wouldn't say don't get one. I bought one. They're not inexpensive, $200.
Right. I'm an enthusiast that takes terrible photographs.
Okay, now I will tell you the one thing that Chris Marquardt has told me. It ain't the camera, it's the photographer. I have bought, you have gas, which we both have gas, gear acquisition syndrome. We think that getting the next great thing is going to make us a better photographer. I would say the Arsenal makes a lot of sense if you do those kinds of pictures. If you don't mind bringing a tripod, if you want to have a great night shot or a great HDR shot, or you want to have people removed from a shot, if those are things that you think you might be doing, then I think it's a great idea. I'm sure, it works. The problem is I'm saving it for the day that I'm going to take that picture. Leo Laporte, the tech guy.
Thank you, Leo.
No, I had to stop because of the thing. You don't have to go away. Hold on.
Oh, one other question.
The thing makes me stop,
One other question, if I can, then.
Sure.
My camera that I have won't function with it. I'm just.
Oh, well, that's a disadvantage for sure. Yeah.
And I've got a Sony system set up, but unfortunately, if I upgrade my body, my lenses all go. They don't match.
Oh yeah, then don't. It's not worth it for that. It's not worth. I have it because it works with my Sony Alpha A7R.
Right.
But if you have a camera it doesn't work with, especially if you not only have to upgrade the body, but you have to get all new lenses, you're talking thousands of dollars to use this $200 device.
I know, but just think, I get a new camera, new lenses.
You have gas. Look, I'm not criticizing. I'm exactly the same. I know exactly what you mean.
Oh my!
But take a page from my book. I bought that Arsenal too. I bought the Pro. Same excitement over the idea. The problem is, also we're not traveling as much these days, so there wasn't an occasion to use it. If what I was thinking is if I ever go back to Egypt and I'm at, the Temple of Thebes or something, and I want to take a picture of it that's HDR with no people in it, that's the way I would do it. And it's small enough that you can carry it with you. But yeah, you have to look at the supported cameras, make sure it works with them. And yeah, if it doesn't work with your current camera, I think a lot of this stuff you can do. Okay, get ready for this. In your smartphone, the thing you maybe should buy instead is a smartphone compatible tripod. If you have a late model smartphone, a Pixel 6, an iPhone 13, something like that.
Apple 11.
Yeah, you can do all of this stuff. Not maybe with the Apple camera app, but there are third-party apps. I would look at Halide 2, Halide. Halide also makes a photography app for time lapse. A lot of the things that the Arsenal does, what the Arsenal essentially does is the computational photography that any good late model smartphone does.
Right.
So honestly, if you've got a good, or maybe take the same, investment that you would put in all of this stuff and get the latest Pixel 7 or the iPhone 14. And then get some of these apps, because Spectre is a app that's for taking dark pictures. It does multiple images. Everybody should have Halide on an iPhone. Halide 2, Halide. There are a lot of amazing apps, and that's basically what the Arsenal is doing: is bringing that capability to essentially a dumb camera. The computational capability of a modern smartphone.
Okay, that's something for me to look into.
Yeah, save money. I know you didn't want me to tell you that. What would you get if you...
Now I have enough money to take that vacation to Egypt.
Yeah, there you go. Exactly. It's the vacation or the camera. What do you have now?
A65.
Okay, very nice.
I'm just under it by I think 2 numbers.
Yep. Yeah, you're due for a new camera. You haven't bought a camera in a while. I think that's fair.
Yeah.
That one's 12 years old, something like that.
I couldn't guess.
Yeah. It's an older camera.
It's still a perfectly functional camera.
Well, that's the problem, isn't it?
Video and everything.
Yeah.
I mean, it does everything that it's intended to do.
So the next thing to think about when you buy a camera is you're not really buying a body. You're buying the whole system. Because you're now realizing new camera, new lenses. So that's the that's the decision. Well, if you like Sony, I'm a big fan of the A7s.
Yeah, but I can carry over my flash. That's one thing that'll work going forward.
And probably with an adapter, you can take many of your lenses with you too. I would guess.
Yeah. Well, I appreciate very much you taking the time to talking with me today.
Wayne, I'm glad and have a wonderful time with all your. I think it's the greatest hobby ever. So I think you're.
My wife is jealous because you're my weekend partner because I have to spend time listening to your program during the weekend, no matter what aspect of things we're involved in.
What's her name?
Betty.
I'm sorry, Betty. I'm sorry. I'm sorry, Betty.
I'll tell her you said that.
Thank you, Wayne. Have a great week.
Appreciate it.
All right.
You too.
Take care. Bye-bye. Well, hey, how are you today? Leo Laporte here, the tech guy. It's getting warmer. 88. Ask Leo. I hope you're somewhere cool and safe. Please, don't brave the heat if you're in this heat wave in Southern California right now. What is the temperature, Professor Laura, right now? I think it's 102. 102 in Sherman Oaks. Whew. It's hot. If you don't have AC where you live or you can't find AC nearby, many communities in these heat waves will have special shelters to help keep you cool. Please find out about that or go to a movie. That's what they used to do. That's how AC was invented. Movie theaters in the 30s. Remember those? You don't, but I know your grandma does. Remember those banners on the theaters? Come on, it's cold. AC with a frost on it. Somebody in the chat room is saying Nevada Energy. Vegas Wayne says Nevada Energy is offering me a free thermostat. Yeah, be careful. A bunch of people in Colorado found out maybe that free thermostat comes with some conditions. 22,000 Colorado residents had their thermostats locked on a day when the temperature approached 90 degrees. The utility, they'd agreed to, with the utility, have these smart thermostats. If they wanted to make it cooler, right, because it's getting hot out there, the thermostat would say on the front, temperature locked temporarily during energy emergency. These are customers of Excel Energy with smart thermostats. Due to a rare energy emergency that may affect the local energy grid, your temperature slider has been changed from 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. because you enrolled in an energy savings program. Well, be careful. I'm just saying, that's not a bad thing. It's a little weird, though. You go over to your thermostat and it says, no. You did get, I think, a credit for that. It is a voluntary program. So, but wow. Read the fine print. That's right. Read the fine print. 8888, Ask Leo. On we go with the show. Glenda is on the line from Valdosta, Georgia. Hello, Glenda.
Hello, Leo.
How is it? How are things in Valdosta today?
What is it?
How are things in Valdosta today?
It's pouring rain.
Oh, I bet it is.
Yes, it's very cloudy and it rains in spurts, but it rains hard.
Have you been having some flooding? I hope not.
No.
Oh, good.
No, it's in some areas where there's creeks and things. We have flooding areas.
Well, stay safe. Stay safe.
Yes, thank you. When I first got on the phone, they were talking about the year 1924. That's 24 years before I was born.
I'm not going to do the math.
Well, there you go.
I'm not but it's let me see, it's 42 years before I was born. No, I'm sorry. No, sorry. 32 years before I was born. So we're close enough. We're close enough.
Right. That's right. I love Kim's laugh. She has a very good laugh.
Yeah.
I think that's her name. This is the first time I've ever called, but I listen on the radio all the time.
Thank you.
Anyway, my husband and I bought our first flat screen TV in November of 2015.
Whoa, it's been a while. All right. Yeah.
And we always had analog TVs, 2 of them, those head ones. Okay.
Yeah.
We're 18th century type. But anyway, yesterday morning, I turned off the TV to listen to the radio. And then when I went to turn the TV back on using the remote, it didn't come on.
It's jealous. It says, what are you listening to the radio for?
Yes.
No. Yeah. You and I are old enough to remember you'd buy a TV and you'd keep it for 20 years.
That's right. I don't like waste. I don't blame you. Discard things, and when there's just a small part, might fix it. That's the way I am.
The problem with modern TVs is they're computers. And computers don't last 20 years.
Yes.
I mean, they may last 20 years, but you don't want to use them for that long. And I think that a 2015 TV, 7-year-old TV, it's possible it's a minor thing.
Mm-hmm.
But you might have noticed another change. I don't know what it's like in Valdosta, but around here, the guys who were used to have signs out front, TV repair, they're mostly gone.
Right.
Because it's not like the old tubes where you could bring it in, they'd replace a tube or replace a part. These things are solid-state technology, and there is no way that they can go in and replace a single part. In most cases, you're replacing a whole big thing. Now, here's the good news on that TV. If it won't turn on at all, it may just be the power supply. And that is usually something that can be replaced. I don't want you to replace it yourself because it's also something that can electrocute you. Now, I don't want you to get zapped. But it may well be that you can get that replaced. The first thing to do is call the manufacturer and tell them what's happening and see if they have somebody nearby. You can't mail that in, obviously. Somebody nearby that can come out, or maybe you could put it in the back of the truck and bring it in. I don't know. If you've got a vehicle you could fit it into. But it could be an inexpensive repair if it's just the power supply.
Right.
And I bet you it is. The fact that it won't even respond. Now, I am going to ask you one thing. You did check the batteries in the remote, right?
Oh, yeah. I switched out, got brand new.
Oh, good.
AAA batteries, and I turned on the TV under the little red.
You did it manually, and did that work?
It didn't come on either there. It flickers every once in a while. It just has a little flicker in it. Every once in a while.
That sounds to me like the power supply, which is generally on computers. And your TV, like I said, is a computer. It's generally possible to replace that inexpensively, but it's not something you can do yourself. So you're going to have to find somebody who does TV repairs. Do you have the yellow pages around still?
Yes, we have a telephone book, and I'm on a landline. I'm on a landline right now. We have telephone books.
Wow, I haven't seen one of those in a long time either.
Yeah.
So check in the telephone book. See if there's anybody that does TV repair and call them, or call Samsung, the manufacturer, and say, hey, here's what's happening. They may well say, yeah, there's no user serviceable parts. There's nothing you can replace. And they may, and beware, you may get it in there and the guy says, oh, it's not the power supply, it's the backlight. This is a way you can tell that if the backlight goes out. All modern TVs have a light in the back that shines through the shutters that are on the front of the TV. If you can kind of see an image at all, then maybe just the backlight went out. You say it's flickering. When it flickers, does it flicker on and off?
No, it just is a slight flicker. It's not like when it used to come on, it would, kind of be a small flicker.
I think that sounds like the power supply. I'm going to hope it is, because that's an easy and inexpensive replacement.
Yeah, a little flicker.
Yeah.
And I also always was going to ask you about, my husband and I live 1 mile north of an Air Force base.
Okay.
And we get buffering a lot, and I think they have the radar on.
Oh, my.
During, when I want to watch TV midday, the planes are coming in.
Yeah.
And the radar is on. So I have buffering like stuff on like ABC. There'll be buffering problems.
Well, now, you're watching it over an antenna or a cable?
We don't have cable. We can't afford that.
So it's an antenna.
Antenna that's one of those ones that are flat and they're white on one side and black.
And you're saying that every once in a while it'll flicker. Could be the radar.
Yeah, the radar. Yeah, because these F-16s and the helicopters and all that come in. You know, they come in for lunch or something like that. They've been flying all morning.
Well, radar is just like your microwave.
Mm-hmm.
It's and it could absolutely interfere with your TV reception.
Yes.
Is it? You notice it happens more at certain times of day?
Yes, it's normally when I think the radar, the people in the tower out there know the planes are coming in.
Yeah.
They know when all the pilots are coming in.
Yeah.
Not so much in the morning, but probably midday or afternoon.
Yeah, that absolutely is possible.
Yes, I thought too.
There are things you can do to reduce electrical interference. Is the antenna an outdoor or an indoor antenna?
It's indoor. We don't have anything outdoors.
Okay. So it could be that what you want to do, I wish there were Radio Shacks still. Who knows? Maybe Valdosta still has a Radio Shack.
Yeah, they closed.
Yeah, they're gone.
It closed.
Yeah, they used to sell a thing called a choke.
Uh-huh.
And that would go on the power line to whatever devices you had.
Mm-hmm.
And it was snap-on. It was like a little collar that would snap on. It's used to block higher frequency interference, and it actually works pretty well. It's just wrapped up copper wire.
Is
or
it
it's
available
ferrite.
from other electronics?
Yeah, you could even get it probably at Amazon. So you want to look for a choke that you can snap onto power lines and snap it onto a variety of your stuff. Like, I don't know if that antenna is powered, but snap it onto the cable that comes from the antenna. Snap it on the power that plugs into your TV, that kind of thing, and that will reduce the RF coming from that radar. I'm also hearing a bit of buzz on your phone. It may also be you've got some noise in your electrical circuits.
Yeah.
And because I hear that coming
It's a
through the phone.
landline.
Yeah,
It's a
but
landline.
are you on the wireless phone or are you on a corded phone?
It's a corded phone.
Yeah, I hear some buzz coming
Yes,
through.
I hear a buzz too.
Yeah, that could just be a bad connection, but it also, if you hear it all the time, then put those chokes on your phone line as well.
Choke on the phone line.
Yeah, you might be getting a lot of interference in that house from that Air Force base.
Yes, it's 1 mile. We're 1 mile
Pretty
north
close.
of the North Gate.
Yeah, pretty close. And when that radar is swinging around, it would absolutely, you'd be getting some interference.
Oh, yes.
So there are a number of, you go on Amazon or any online, Walmart might even have it, but you want to look for a choke, or maybe they don't use that phrase. That's kind of old-fashioned. They might just say interference device or anti-interference device, something like that. Actually, we got a link to a couple of them that our chat room has found from Philips. They call it the interference pixelation installation. They also have a 2-lead ferrite choke noise suppressor. We'll put the links in the website, techguylabs.com. And that's where 1924 comes from, Glenda. This is episode 1924. That's why we're playing some old 20s jazz. Something before you were born. Thank you for the call. I appreciate it. 8888 Ask Leo. 888-827-5536. More of your calls coming up. Also, we're going to talk space. We got to talk to the Artemis 1. Will NASA ever get that off the ground? Rod Pyle coming up. Oh, I'll be a lot poorer, Mike B. I skipped upgrading last year, so I have an iPhone 12. Lisa always gets the new one, so I have to buy that. I'll buy myself probably an iPhone. We'll probably both get iPhone 14 Pro Maxes. I'm really hoping the Pro Watch is not $1,000. That's going to be a bummer. But as you know, I don't take loaners, so I got to buy them. Yeah, well, then I have to buy Micah one. Yeah. Micah says, "I'm hoping that now that I'm invited to the Apple event, I'll be able to get loaners." But actually, I don't think loaners are a good thing for a number of reasons. One, I don't like, I don't want to hear from the company ever, one way or the other. But also, I don't think you really get a real experience with something that you only have for 2 weeks. You got to really invest in it to really know if it's a good product. So. It's just the cost, as far as I'm concerned, the cost of doing what we do. It's not, what we do is not cheap. But to do it right, I think you got to do it that way. This is very 60s. Leo Laporte, the tech guy. Is that Mickey Dolenz? Who is that?
Bo Donaldson and the Haywoods.
Bo Donaldson and the Haywoods. Well, there you go. Laura, you're going deep into the record library for that one. That's scary for her because there's not, you go that far back in the library, it's a little dusty. I think there's bats and stuff. It's not well lit, cobwebs. Nobody's been back there in ages.
And maybe a dead body out of the.
Who knows? The previous, there might be the remains of the previous of your predecessor. I don't know. We don't know. You go in there. You bring a lantern. You bring a day's food supply, some water. Dig deep. You find Bo Donaldson and the Haywoods. 8888 Ask Leo. That's the phone number. Ceci's on the line from Huntington Beach, California. Hi, Ceci.
Hi, I'm Leo.
Welcome.
Thank you. This is my first time calling you.
Well, it's about time. I've been waiting.
Yeah. I have a problem, or we have a problem. My husband and I, we were on the computer this morning, and we got a thread. It said it was a Win32/Hive.ZY. And it says that it's blocked, but it keeps coming over and over and over. We looked it up online, and it says that it was due to an update and that hopefully they'll make a patch for it. And I'm just wondering is the computer safe? Is this a false threat or what's going on?
First of all, almost always these are false threats. Does it ask you to call somebody?
No.
Does it ask you to click a link? Does it have you?
No.
There's no action associated with it.
There's no action associated.
It's just a pop-up that says, you've got... Now, let me ask you something. Do you have antivirus software on your Windows computer?
Just Windows Defender. Just the Windows.
I hear your husband, Ceci. What's his name?
Hello, Leo.
Hi. So that's good. You've been listening to the show, obviously, and you've heard me say you don't need an antivirus. You don't want an antivirus. You just have Windows Defender. So the first thing to do when you get a pop-up like that, we're going to try to figure out if that's Windows Defender or if it's somebody not so nice. So the first thing to do is a thorough scan, what Windows Defender calls a thorough scan. And it doesn't normally do this. You have to invoke it manually because it takes a long time.
Okay.
So the first thing to do is to get Windows Defender launched. Okay. So you're going to hit the Windows key or open the Start menu and type Windows Security. That's the real name of it. And in the sidebar, you're going to see Virus and Threat Protection. That's Defender.
Yes.
Yep. Now, the normal button there is Quick Scan. That's what it does on a regular basis, but you don't want to do a quick scan. We want to do a deep scan, a full scan.
Okay.
So click the Scan Options button below that, and then you'll see a variety of options: quick scan, full scan, custom scan, et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah.
Do the full scan. That's going to take a little while, half an hour maybe. It'll tell you how long it's going to take, and then see what it comes up with.
Okay.
If it says there's no threats, then that pop-up is spurious. Does it pop? What is it? Tell me what the pop-up says.
It just came up right now. It says Windows Security, threats found, Microsoft Defender antivirus found, threats get details.
Okay. Okay, that does sound legitimate. Although, remember, a bad guy's going to say exactly the same thing that Defender says because they want to trick you. And that's why I asked if there's a call to action, because Defender's not going to say, click here, call here, get in touch with us. None of that stuff. That's what bad guys say. In a way, the fact that it doesn't say that indicates to me maybe this is legit. However, is it a problem? Probably not. It doesn't sound like it's a very serious problem. So,
no, and then when we looked it up online, I guess Windows Central is saying Microsoft did something this morning and something.
Thank you, Microsoft.
You can ignore it for now. They're trying to work on a patch.
Okay. So this sounds like this is widespread. Let me see. The chat room's giving me a Microsoft Defender. This is, it's from today. Falsely detects Win32 Hive.ZY in Google Chrome and Electron apps. Well, guess what? Those are all fine. It started Sunday morning. So, yep. And this is from Bleeping Computer, which is very reliable. Lawrence Abrams' excellent site. Microsoft pushed out a new Defender signature, and this happens sometimes. You get false positives. It thinks that Chrome is a virus.
Okay.
It's not, obviously, right? So, yeah, you're not alone. Apparently, this has been going on all day. Defender will continuously display those detections when apps are opened. This is a false positive. Your device is mistakenly being detected. I'm so glad you called. I wasn't aware of this. So Microsoft will soon push out a new, thing. It'll fix it. A new thing, new threat definitions. It'll fix it. That should fix it. Leo Laporte, the tech guy. I couldn't remember the name of it. I'm so glad you called. I was not aware of this, but you are not alone. This is very widespread. So you had the right instinct, which is, is this something we need to worry about? I'm glad you searched for it. Bleeping Computer is a totally reliable site, bleepingcomputer.com. Microsoft has since released 2 new Defender security intelligence updates. The most recent should fix this. Although you may still get false positives. So you don't need to do the thorough check. I was wrong. It would come up with the same result because it's got bad definitions. Sometimes this happens where a definition goes out that collides with a legit program, in this case, Chrome and anything that uses Chrome, which is all Electron apps. So there's a lot of apps this is affected. So look for an update. Just open Windows Security and under Virus and Threat Protection, you already have that open. Check for updates and get that update, and that should fix it.
Okay.
If it doesn't, you might want to reboot because sometimes it stays in memory. Rebooting will force it.
Sure. Okay.
Hey, a pleasure talking to you both.
Thank you.
Thanks for listening. I'm glad you called. That's really a good thing. Now the world knows it's really important. Everybody hear this. Thank you.
Yeah, well, that's what my wife said. We should. Let's call Leo.
Finally, a reason to call.
Okay.
Nice to meet you both. Thanks.
Nice to meet you too. Bye, Leo.
Take care. Bye-bye. All right, let me see if I can get Mr. Pyle on the line here. Pyle on the hotline. Hello, Rod.
Hello.
How are you?
Well, I'm okay. We're emerging from our COVID madness.
I hear that Sherry got it too.
Yeah, it took a couple of days, and we were going to try and do 2 separate quarantines, and we just finally said, "Oh, to hell with it." So
yeah, that's what I did with Lisa.
Days,
yeah, I just said, "Look, I'm not going to." Yeah, I'm going to get it. That's fine. And
you're seeing your partner there suffering, and you're feeling better, and it's like, okay, I feel better, so I'm going to abandon you for the next 5 days. It doesn't seem right.
No.
And you guys are still okay, right?
Absolutely no problem. So I hadn't mentioned your names, but you've just outed yourself to the podcast audience. So, all right.
Okay.
No, I'm sorry. It sounds like you were all right, though. You didn't get too sick, and neither did Sherry.
Yeah, it wasn't bad.
Good.
And God bless modern medical science. I mean, this is my second brush with this. I know you've had it too. I'm so grateful this isn't 2 years ago.
Oh, my God. Yeah. Who knows what would the outcome?
Potential death sentence.
Yeah. And, and you got Paxlovid, right?
Yeah.
And did that help?
Well, who knows?
Who knows?
I don't know what
you don't want to have been
to have, yeah.
So I actually am grateful to you because I got it a month ago on the cruise, and so I'm almost certain what I got was BA5. That's probably what you had, and I just feel like you gave me a booster shot. That's all, because I did on
Wednesday.
You're
welcome.
Yeah, thank you. On Wednesday, my throat was scratchy. I was starting to get a headache. I thought, I'm getting it. And then I fought it off, and Thursday morning, Wednesday night, I kind of middle of the night woke up. I said, I feel fine. And I tested negative the whole time. And I think what happened is I was protected from both the shots and a previous infection. I fought it off. And now that means my antibodies are even more alert. So thank you. You did me a favor.
Anytime you need me to roll up there and test your immune system, you just let me know. Happy to do it.
Are you going to talk about the Artemis one?
Oh, is there anything else?
Oh, my God, what a nightmare.
I'm going to talk about that, and if we have time, the passing of Frank Drake, who ran the SETI Institute up near you.
Yeah, I saw that. Yeah. Here we go. He's back. He's back from his sojourn into Mars. Well, the Arctic Circle anyway. Mars-like Arctic Circle. He's at home, and he's joining us, our spaceman Rod Pyle, editor-in-chief of Ad Astra magazine, which you can subscribe to at space.nss.org. That's the National Space Society. Rod and his buddy Tariq Malik, the editor-in-chief of space.com, do a podcast for us called This Week in Space, which you must listen to at twit.tv/twists. And he joins us every week. Tariq, poor guy, went to Florida multiple times to see Artemis launch. NASA's testing this rocket because it hopes to go to the moon in a few years, send humans to the moon, including the first woman, right?
Right.
But they can't seem to get it off the ground. Two attempts to launch, both shut down. And I saw a NASA spokesperson put a good light on it, saying, "Well, it's better than blowing up."
Well, I think that came from the head of NASA, who said, we
could have been worse.
Cheaper to figure it out now, which, you could say those kind of things when you're doing a test flight without astronauts.
They never did a wet test successfully, right? They never were able to do a full fueling, ever.
No, there was always some kind of compromise they had to make, so they'd kind of, fill out a waiver for certain rules and so forth. And this is
dopey.
Bit them in the backside.
That's dopey. But this whole project is dopey. This is a Congress's boondoggle.
Yeah, but, I was looking back at Apollo 4 and Apollo 6, which were the first tests of the Saturn V back in 1968. And there's a lot of similarities here. And mind you, there was a lot more money to spend on that rocket at the time, many multiples of what they're spending on SLS. And they had many of the similar problems. It should be noted that the first stage of the Saturn V was also built by Boeing, but not necessarily connective tissue there. But they had similar troubles. So what's going on now? Well, they had the first launch scrub about a week ago, which, as you recall, which was because that engine, number 3, wouldn't chill down properly, and they later found that was apparently a sensor error, which may mean that they could have gone ahead and flown had they realized it was a sensor error. So that's tearful. Then you come back on Saturday, and it's like, okay, next try. And now we're having problems with a fairly large leak from one of those umbilicals. It's called a quick disconnect umbilical. It's one of the hoses, if you remember the footage from the old Saturn V days of the line falling away when the rocket launched. It's one of those. The problem here is that hydrogen leaks a lot more easily than kerosene or liquid oxygen did, which is what fueled the first stage of the Saturn V. So like the shuttle, you've got this huge hydrogen tank you have to keep topping off. And hydrogen molecules are really tiny, Now, there's a little more detail here. Apparently, somehow along the way, before they reached terminal countdown, well, they didn't actually reach terminal countdown, but before they would have reached it, that hydrogen line got overpressured by about 3 times, meaning somehow there was more pressure on the line by multiples than there should have been. And they think it may have blown out or damaged the seal against the rocket. So now it's leaking at about 4 times what's considered safe to cause a fire at the base of the rocket before it actually lifts off. And so they have to scrub again. So this means they have to inspect and possibly replace that seal, among what other things may have gone wrong. And that will take at least 2 weeks, which puts us into late September. And then there's 2 more launch windows coming up, September, early October. But during one of those, SpaceX has to fly its next crew mission up to the space station. So that means they got to stand down the SLS while they're accommodating that, which may mean rolling it back to the VAB, because after 25 days, you have to get it into the shed to check the batteries for the flight termination system, which are the explosives.
This whole thing is a Rube Goldberg device because they wanted to reuse old shuttle stuff. Congress loves, somebody said the perfect NASA space vehicle would have parts made in every state in the union. Congress loves that pork barrel. And then
the lowest bidder.
And then they had the problem that they can't even land the thing on the moon. They have to get Elon and SpaceX to come along and finish the deal. Maybe we should just get Elon to do the whole thing.
Well, that's been suggested, as you might imagine, since he has Starship under development. The irony of it is, of course, that while Starship has been in development for a number of years, and it's been moving, of course, much faster than the SLS has, we've now had this snag for about a year where he hasn't been able to fly, and hopefully that's just around the corner. They had to work out some stuff with the FAA.
So he's not perfect either. He's not perfect.
Well, he's not perfect either, and let's not forget he hasn't flown people in Starship yet, and there hasn't been an orbital flight yet. So it's still pretty immature. But yes, another 5 years, it's going to be hard to rationalize spending I'd say at this point, if you amortize costs, $4 to $7 billion per flight on SLS, when you can maybe get Starship for $50 million,
a lot less,
100 million, whatever it is, a lot less.
Do you think the process is flawed by the politics? Is that part of the problem?
Yeah. Well, cost plus bidding need more be said, Yeah. So those contracts mean that the aerospace contractor deliberately has to bid low to try and get the job, because if you've ever worked for government, that's how it happens. And then you're able to increase your costs as you go along, saying, oh, sorry, we need to do this. Oh, sorry, you changed your specs, we need to do that. And you still make profit on top of that. Now, that was the last of those contracts, at least for a major program in NASA. Now it's all fixed price. So you either come in on the nickel or you've got to have a damn good explanation why you didn't.
Okay. Do you think Artemis will get off the ground this year?
Well, I was on our very own lovely This Week in Space podcast. Thanks for mentioning that earlier. Tarek and I were opining about that, and I bet him he's got this really cool Star Trek gaming chair that I cherish and covet. And so I said, I will bet you that chair that it's not flying till October. And he said, I'm betting you September and you're not getting my chair. So
well, you may be getting that chair. He went down to the first launch scrubbed. Did he stay down there or did he come home and then go to the second launch?
And he's too important at space.com to stay. So he came back.
Went down again yesterday. Yeah.
Well, but in between, he had to go to a press conference that was going to put him in the air when they announced the next launch he was explaining this complicated thing. So. And he was trying to figure out what to do. And I guess he'll just keep going back.
Hey, good news. Launches. He didn't miss anything.
Yeah, you're right.
Yeah, he didn't miss anything.
Lucky guy.
I don't, somebody said, oh, yeah, go ahead. Just criticize away. It's easy to criticize. That's true. I mean, look, I'm excited about the idea of going back to the moon. I don't know if this is the most sensible way to do it.
It's not.
Maybe, we should do it the right way because it'll cost less and it'll work.
Well, and you're right. I mean, there are a whole bunch of political intersections here that kind of damaged the current effort, not the least of which is consistent underfunding. But even though it's been very expensive, but you're right. You've got this kind of weird kludgy lunar lander setup. I mean, I love Starship, and I think it'll work great, but it's capable of carrying about 100 tons of lunar surface. And at this point, at least for the first couple of missions, it'll be carrying a couple of astronauts and supplies enough for a week to stay.
This time, though, no Moonican Campos. We're going to leave him behind.
Moonican Campos. So, yeah.
He's a mannequin. Rod, we got to run. If you want to know more about this, though, I think you should listen to the podcast This Week in Space, or subscribe to Ad Astra, space.nss.org. Rod's going to write a series of articles about his visits to the Mars surface of the Arctic, and you'll see those there. And, of course, space.com with Tarek Malik had some articles, too. Thank you, Rod. Safe travels.
Thank you.
All right.
All righty. Take care.
You're going to the moon, huh? Leo Laporte, the tech guy. We're going to the moon. I don't know. You know, I feel like engineering and politics don't mix.
That's a really good point, and especially, the political mandate to make this work is less than it was in the 60s. For better or worse, we don't have a martyred president that initiated the program.
Are we scared? Are we scared, though, that China is going to militarize the moon, and is that going to propel us along?
Well, we're partly afraid they're going to militarize space in general, and partly afraid that China and Russia are going to try and figure out a way to sort of quarantine the resources on the lunar poles.
Right.
So when we put out the Artemis Accords, which are what nations joining our program to go back to the moon need to sign if they want to do it, China and Russia looked at them and said, colonialism. And so they set up their own program, and they're going to build their own moon base, and they're going to send astronauts there in the mid-2030s and blah, blah, blah. And, it's generally viewed in the West as a we'll show you kind of thing. And the big concern is that, the Outer Space Treaty is really the only thing at this point that strongly governs the legality of what you can and can't do up there. And our fear on the U.S. side is that they're going to manipulate that into trying to have exclusion zones, and their fear is that we're going to try and manipulate that so it will own territory, which is really not what we want. We don't want to own the ocean. We just want to own the fish we yank out of it, in effect.
Yeah. Interesting. And I think, though, I also fear that troubles here on Earth are going to make trips to the moon superfluous at some point as well. So, this is almost a luxury, unless you think we're moving there, which I don't think we are.
Well, having just come from something vaguely like Mars, I'll say I've seen enough.
Yeah.
I wouldn't want to live there, but, there are people who think we will. But, at some point, it'd be interesting to talk more about these dummies once they've flown, because there's 3 of them. I didn't realize there was 3. I thought there was just the Manik and Campos, but there's also Helga and Zohar.
Yeah, the Helga's kind of tiny. Is that how big the woman astronaut will be? No. They just decided to put a little one on there.
Yeah, it's an average guess. Well, and plus, they don't have arms or legs, which is kind of creepy.
Okay.
They're just torso dummies.
Okay.
But one of the Zohar gets a radiation vest to test to see if that will help protect
That's fair.
standards.
Yeah, I mean, look, I want them to do all the science they need to do to make it safe. Absolutely. That's great. That's great. I just don't want them to waste time and money because of some political agenda. That seems to me to be unfortunate.
Yeah, but it's never stopped them before.
Yeah. That's true. It was always
depending
political.
Depending on the politics, especially if it's international competition, sometimes that's all that pushes it over the hump with Congress. So, what are you going to do?
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you, sir. Have a wonderful. I hope you feel better. You're pretty much on the mend now.
Yeah, I think we'll be out of quarantine by Wednesday, and then I'll come up and infect you again.
Yeah, please. I want to every month or so. I wish you would just keep that immunity up. I won't need a booster.
I'll be your walking booster shot. Okay.
Thanks, Rod. Take care.
You.
Stay well. All right. Bye-bye. Thank you for letting me be your tech guy again. Hey, thank you for letting me be here to answer your calls. Thanks to Professor Laura, our musical director, who spins the discs, goes deep into the record library for dusty old records no one's heard of in years. We also thank Kim Sheffer, our phone angel, for getting you on the air. Most of all, thanks to those of you who listen, because, we couldn't do it without you. So I appreciate it. I really do. Thanks to all the radio stations all over the country who carry the show. I know for many of them it's foreign language programming. They take a chance. You got to understand. They take it. You really a nerd on the radio? I don't know. Thank you. I appreciate your support. David's on the line from San Diego, California. Hi, David.
Hello. How you doing today, Leo?
I am well. How are you?
I don't know. I'm still trying to figure out AT&T.
Oh, people have tried. Many have tried for years.
Yeah, I'm gonna. I'll figure it out. I'll find a way. All right, so check this out. I'm really concerned about my safety So I know you recommended ExpressVPN.
Yes.
Now, with this whole new Roe versus Wade law and stuff, and about people tracking your geolocation and your searches and stuff, I'm looking into VPNs. Now, ExpressVPN, they take your credit card, which is linked back to you. So that's not a true anonymous VPN because they can link it back.
Absolutely right. In fact, I would submit that any VPN, virtual private network that you use, you have to trust them because they have a lot of information about you, right? You could say, well, I'm going to find a VPN that lets me pay in cryptocurrency. I think ExpressVPN might. That would give you a little more anonymity, although the idea of anonymity in this world is difficult because as we know, for instance, your Bitcoin wallet number, while it doesn't have your name in it, can often be traced back to you in a variety of ways. So being anonymous is hard. How does a VPN help? Maybe not in as many ways as you think. So, for instance, let's say you're using ExpressVPN or any VPN.
TunnelBear.
And TunnelBear, another good one. NordVPN. There are many. And there's also, you can run your own. Using Linux and WireGuard. I mean, there are lots of ways to do it. But if you go to a Google search and you're logged in your browser to Google, Google doesn't need your IP address. They say, oh, hey, how you doing, Daniel? What would you like to find today? They know you're doing that search because you logged in. If you say, oh, well, that's fine, I'm going to use private browsing, they still know it's you. Private browsing doesn't hide you.
Yeah.
So you say, oh, okay, well, I'm going to log out of my Google account. I'm going to use a VPN. I'm going to do it in private browsing. They may still have ways of fingerprinting you. And this is the thing that's invisible and the most concerning is browser fingerprinting. We talk a lot about cookies, and people act as if, oh, the cookies, those are the problem. That's why nowadays every single website you visit has to tell you we're using cookies. It's meaningless, it's annoying, it's a waste of clicks because there's so many other ways a browser can fingerprint you, right?
Oh, yes, I got two more quick questions. So I thought about, okay, what about creating or getting a service for secure DNS? I talked to AT&T. They will not allow me to change my DNS.
They won't.
No, and I got a brand new fiber line from them, and they're
yeah, because you're using their equipment at home, which you have to.
If I was going to buy my own router and change it, which I've tried, and I called their tech support, and they just kicked back and said, no, we can't change it.
Oh my God! Why do you think they would do that? Oh, because they want to know where you're going.
And to top it off, they take that information and they sell it to third parties.
Absolutely.
And law enforcement.
Absolutely. The notion of being private nowadays when you use the internet is pretty much fractured because there are so many ways sites can figure out who you are. Your internet service provider can. A VPN would be helpful. Probably hiding you from your internet service provider because all they would see is tunneled, encrypted activity. They wouldn't see where you're going. Then you have to trust your VPN provider because, in effect, they've become your ISP. They see everything your ISP would see. Does AT&T let you use a VPN?
I haven't got that far yet.
Yeah, I mean, if they won't, I can't believe they won't let you change your DNS. That's horrible.
I was frustrated. That's extremely horrible. And then, like you said, they say, well, it's our equipment. Well, okay, I'll go buy my own equipment. And they kick back, and they gave me a hard time or whatever, guys.
Wow. Well, a VPN would get around that for sure.
Just to let your listeners know, AT&T, they got a bad track record starting with Prism.
Oh, yeah. So we know there was a whistleblower who said, yeah, AT&T in San Francisco, if you were an AT&T internet user, had a closet they gave to the NSA so they could go in there and monitor all traffic going through the AT&T servers. So we know they do that. And here's my bet. Nowadays, every single internet service provider does that. They make money by selling your information to marketers. And if law enforcement wants a little room on the side that lets them monitor all that, are they going to say no? Absolutely not. So,
and my rebuttal is, okay, if you guys want to sell my information, cool. Give me half of the profit.
Pay me, yes.
Pay me.
This is a larger problem I think we've got to solve. I think there are solutions out there. The guy who invented the World Wide Web, Tim Berners-Lee, has a project he's working on that is designed around that. It will ultimately come down to some sort of privacy vault that you will get or allow people to have access to in return for maybe a payment or maybe a coupon or something like that. But I think other than that, you know, you're not a crook, you're not a spy, you're not a dissident. I think you're safe. I agree with you, though. It's very upsetting, especially, and it's in the news all the time. There was just a story this week about the FTC going after a data broker that was collecting information about all kinds of stuff. And, you know, this is, you know, your privacy completely violated. And, you know, I don't know what the long-term answer is. This is the price we pay today for using the internet. Is it going to always be that way? I certainly hope not.
Our grandparents, our ancestors died for our privacy rights, you know?
Well, it's funny, you know, there's some argument about whether the notion of privacy rights is real. I mean, it's not encoded in the Constitution. I guess it kind of is. Your home should be safe from unreasonable search and seizure. I guess you could say that's a privacy right, but the word privacy doesn't show up in the Bill of Rights at all. Certainly the founders did not know about the internet. They could never have imagined a global network where we're all connected to one another. That would have been completely out of their, you know, that's more than science fiction. So obviously the Constitution doesn't contemplate it. I feel like we deserve a right to privacy. We certainly deserve a right to be private, and I think this is enshrined in the Bill of Rights against government. You know, the notion that they can come into your house and they could search, they can seize, all of that is protected by the Bill of Rights and the Fourth Amendment. I just don't know. I just don't know what we're going to do in the long run. It's something we have to solve. It's absolutely something we have to solve. 8880. Oh, well, I'm not going to give you the phone number because I hear the music saying, you're out of time, you're out of time, you're out of time. We continue the conversation, this conversation in particular, this privacy conversation all week long. It's something we've been talking about for a long time on my podcast network, which is twit.tv. You'll find yourself there if you go to techguylabs.com. That's the hosting site for the Tech Guy show notes. This is episode 1924. It's free, no sign up, techguylabs.com. You'll see all the links that we've mentioned on the show, lots of additional information from a number of our callers on the website, plus a transcript of the show in a couple of days, audio and video from the show too, twit.tv/techguy or techguylabs.com, same place. I am Leo Laporte, the Tech Guy. Stay safe, stay private, and please have a great Geek Week. We'll see you next time. Well, that's it for the Tech Guy Show for today. Thank you so much for being here. And don't forget, TWIT, T-W-I-T. It stands for This Week in Tech, and you'll find it at twit.tv, including the podcasts for this show. We talk about Windows on Windows Weekly, Macintosh on Mac Break Weekly, iPads, iPhones, Apple Watches on iOS Today, security on Security Now. I mean, I can go on and on and on. And, of course, the big show every Sunday afternoon, This Week in Tech. You'll find it all at twit.tv. And I'll be back next week with another great Tech Guys show. Thanks for joining me. We'll see you next time.